Fourth ninja battle ended in just 3 days, because there were more than one opened. 1 month passed in an instant. Although Konoha had the advantage, it did not shake Rock Shinobi's vitality at all. And Sarutobi Hiruzen did not put all the strong people in Konoha village into it in one go. It was right. 1 month later, it can be said that the war between Konoha and Rock Shinobi has just begun. Cloud Shinobi village crossed the country of Yuno, and drove across the country towards the country of fire. According to the investigation by the investigation department, the number of the first frontline dispatched alone was about 1,800 people. Cloud Shinobi gives the impression that it is ambitious. In the original work, Fourth Raikage was represented by the vain attempt to rob Hineda's Byakugan, and it was him who killed Hyaga Hisashi. After thinking that Killer Bee was captured by Suzuki, he was even more furious and held a 5-shadow meeting. It seems that in the original work, except for Konoha who didn't take the initiative to fight, other Shinobu villages have done this kind of thing. But it's not surprising. After all, the Land of Fire occupies the most fertile land in the ninja realm. Why do you want someone else's rotten land? When the Cloud Shinobi ninja approached, Sarutobi Hiruzen made a decisive decision and dispatched 2,000 ninja army to meet Cloud Shinobi. Commander-in-Chief Konoha's White Fang Heitake Shimao. And in the list, Wuan impressively included. Shisui, who had just been promoted to Chunin for less than a year, failed to enter the battlefield. After all, he is only 6 years old. The young shoot named Genius does not need to go to the battlefield at the risk of premature death when there is no emergency. At home, Shiri Hong is preparing for Wu Wen's battle. Rin Nohara and Shizun in the same class are both on the battlefield as medical ninjas, mainly because the number of medical ninjas is really scarce. And Hong is too young now, so she has not been allowed to participate in the war. When it is tight at the end of the war, she might be sent to perform some tasks that are not highly dangerous. But Wuan is absolutely no problem, the village recognizes it. And, you must protect yourself on the battlefield. Shiri Hong walked in front of Wuan, her red eyes that seemed to glow worrisome. Don't worry, I've been there since I was 6 years old. Wuan hugged her into his arms with a chuckle, and sighed softly in his ear. Hey, Red, I'm leaving tomorrow morning, what do you think? Yuri's face was red as smooth as egg white, and after pursing her lower lip, she took the initiative to put it on. Soon, Wuan was turned on the tatami and wrapped up with cotton. On the second day, another army of ninjas set off from Konoha, heading towards Yunokuni in the northeast. The Cloud Shinobi army, led by Third Raikage and his son Ai, is already going there. Wuan ran next to White Fang and chuckled. I use my fists and Uncle White Fang who uses swordsmanship. For Cloud Shinobi village, who is good at ninjutsu, I feel that this combination is inexplicably suitable, doesn't it? The corners of White Fang's mouth turned slightly, but he immediately reduced his smile, and said solemnly, and, remind you, don't underestimate the war, especially this time you want the other party's Cloud Shinobi village, their leader Third Raikage. To be honest, I have no confidence to beat him. Wuan's face also became more serious, but still retained a faint smile. I know. Among the 4 movies of Kabuto and Pure World Reincarnation, the worst performer is Luo Xia, and the most impressive is Third Raikage, an inextricable monster that can fight 8 tails. Although I lost to Naruto's first shot, it might be because the Impure World Reincarnation state is not as strong as the peak of the previous life, or the protagonist's halo may be the cause. But the Third Raikage of this period is undoubtedly the pinnacle of cage level. In addition, according to intelligence, a future Fourth Raikage and Killer Bee, who can almost perfectly control Jinchuriki, will be added. In some ways, it was more troublesome than the battle that Tsunade and the others were facing. After 4 days and 3 nights, the army led by White Fang arrived in the southern area of Yunokuni, and formally camped on this rugged mountainous land, confronting the army of Cloud Shinobi. After the camp was completed, White Fang, as the commander-in-chief, called Wuan and other Jonin elite level and above management personnel into the main account to discuss the battle plan. Most people in Cloud Shinobi village are lightning-style ninjutsu users. They are good at ninjutsu, swordsmanship, and ninjutsu, that is, most people are close combat types of direct combat. Therefore, they will use sneak attacks and the like. The tactical possibility is unlikely. White Fang explained. In other words, they are all idiots with well-developed limbs and simple minds? I agree with that. Wuan chuckled lightly. At the corner of White Fang's mouth, he said again, I heard that Cloud Shinobi has dispatched their Jinchuriki, but it seems that there is no perfect Master 8 Tails power yet, but everyone must be careful. After all, the power of the tail beast is enough to change a game. War. Uncle, since most of them are close-range combat types, I have something fun to try. Wuan suddenly proposed. What? White Fang asked back. Wuan responded with a few words, making White Fang and several Jonin in the main camp stunned. After thinking for a while, White Fang said, well, then you can try it. Anyway, there is no loss to us. Most people like Cloud Shinobi are close combat types of Shinobu, and they will not attack all at once. Because in that way, it is very likely to become a target for the enemy to attack ninjutsu from a long distance. White Fang didn't rush to launch a war against Konoha from the beginning, and the two sides were like two beasts facing each other. They were all staring at them, ready to launch the next moment of attack. And after the stalemate lasted for about 5 days, Third Raikage didn't know if he couldn't hold back his breath, or if he had other plans to attack first. As the main investigator, Hyagon Ninja, found out, he immediately rushed into the main camp and notified White Fang. After White Fang heard the words, he didn't show much surprise, because he felt that Third Raikage's violent temper was almost uncontrollable. Third Raikage personally led the troops? White Fang asked. No, it was the son of Third Raikage who led the vanguard to rush over. Now he has been appointed as the AI of Fourth Raikage in the future, and Cloud Shinobi's 8 Tails Jinchuriki Killer Bee. This Hyaga Jonin Kaido immediately. Do you want to retain your strength? White Fang thought to himself, and then quickly ordered, leave the army. By the way, let Wuan know that he is not very eager to try. Yes. Standing on a stone slope about 5 meters high, Wuan could vaguely hear the galloping of thousands of ninja army from the opposite side. Shocked like thunder. Mr. Wuan, the other party is less than 2 kilometers away from us. Blue veins appeared on both sides of the eyes, and the one on the lower left side, Hyagachinen, who was in charge of the investigation, said, taste. Click, twisting his knuckles twice, making a crisp sound. White Fang grinned in Wu Wen's mouth. He raised his right hand and gestured to the subordinates behind him, get the cannonball. Soon, a bloated body, a ninja from the Akamaike clan, holding a black cannonball that is a circle larger than a basketball, walked towards Wuan and said, come on, here you are. Cannonball, that's right. This is exactly what Wuan asked the owner of the weapon shop, who is likely to be the old man of the ball-head Tenten, who is basically the fireworks that exist in the world of Hokage Ninja, plus the design of the detonation talisman, and the cannonball created by fusion. However, in the eyes of the weapon shop owner, although this thing is much more powerful than the detonation talisman, it is really not conducive to carrying, but the money is the uncle. Since Wuan asked so, he immediately followed suit. Taking it in his hand and weighing it twice, under the curious gaze of White Fang and other Konoha shinobi people around, Wuan looked forward. Headed by AI and Killer Bee, a dense army of Cloud Shinobi has swarmed here. Fist bones. Wuan smiled and lifted the cannonball in the palm of his right hand slightly backwards. Meteorite. In an instant, like a sign, the cannonball drew an arc in the air and fell fiercely into the middle of the Cloud Shinobi army behind AI and them. What it is? The Cloud Shinobi ninja in the center of the team frowned in confusion. But what is thrown from the enemy's hands is by no means a gift. I will solve him. A Cloud Shinobi Chunin using a shinobi sword pulled out the blade and jumped up, preparing to split the cannonball into two like Zoro before it was too late to land. However, it is a pity. His knife is obviously not as fast as Zoro. Boom! At the moment when the blade slashed on the surface of the cannonball, fierce gunsmoke with a violent shock wave dispersed in the center of Cloud Shinobi's army. With the power of having A-level ninjutsu, dozens of Cloud Shinobi ninjas rushed towards the middle and all sides in one breath. What? AI and Killer Bee, who rushed forward, were both shocked. Feeling the gust of wind caused by the explosion, they couldn't help but stop and look back. Konoha's surprise is not much less than Cloud Shinobi's. So, that weird black ball has so much power? They are all comparable to A-level ninjutsu. However, if the cannonball is launched normally out, the top sky is the power of C-level ninjutsu. It is Wuen's own hand strength and haki that can have such attack power. As Zoro said, that thing is more powerful than a cannon. Ha ha ha. It feels really good. The effect was better than I thought. Wuen couldn't help but raise his head and laugh out loud, then raised his head again and shouted, get all the 1,000 shells. He asked the owner of the weapon shop to make and bring with him exactly 1,000 shells. Soon, many logistics personnel sent each other off. Piles of shells were placed on the food delivery truck beside Wu An. With both hands and one hand, they kept throwing them in the direction of the opponent's Cloud Shinobi army. After bursts of big explosions and shock waves, Cloud Shinobi will soon be killed and injured. At least, the team formation has been completely broken up. Fist Bone Meteor Group. The black shells were falling like meteors. For Cloud Shinobi, which are mostly melee types, you must personally resist these shells with your hands, feet, or blades. And without Luffy's weird body and Zoro's rapid knife skills, they can only be completely targeted. Damn it! Kid, AI Feng continued to get angry, and instantly entered the lightning-style chakra mode. His body speed increased to the limit, and the piles of shells thrown out by Wuen were kicked to pieces in mid-air and exploded in mid-air. Despite this, the casualties of Cloud Shinobi have been reduced a lot, but AI must also make every effort to prevent the shells from falling, and there is no way to advance the attack. After I return to Konoha, I have to ask Tenten her father to make more. Some are not enough. After scanning his eyes, there was no more than half of the shells in 10 minutes, Wuen secretly said in his heart. But in fact, the ship is generally slower than Garp in One Piece. It's not the same as it is drifting slowly and letting you hit it. Basically, this trick can only be used on a second player like Cloud Shinobi who is not good at long-distance combat. For example, if the target of the duel is Gaara, a ninja who can block all Deidara's C4 bombs and block a wide range of defenses. This trick is very difficult to work, but it's just useful now. Hi Agaz. How much is left of Cloud Shinobi 97? With a cannonball in his hand, Wuan asked Hayagachinen next to him. Although his age is almost twice as young, this Hayagachinen respectfully said, although AI has resisted a lot of shells, Cloud Shinobi still suffered heavy losses. About 1/3 of the Cloud Shinobi ninjas are no longer able to fight. What? Before he could finish his words, Wuan kicked him into the air. However, gathered at the moment when he flew upside down. The Hayagachinen who flew upside down saw only the position he had fought before. At some unknown time, a big man who was nearly 2 meters tall suddenly flashed out, thunder and lightning broke out all over his body, and he threw his foot at Wu-An third Raikage. White Fang yelled in disbelief. The next moment he reacted immediately, shouting to other Konoha shinobi around, disperse. Faced with a kick from third Raikage, Wuan, who has an average adult man's height, didn't know how he moved instantaneously. But in seeing and hearing, his attack was clearly locked by himself. Ah! With a sneer, a tight uppercut right fist greeted him. Dawn! The popping sound of fists and feet detonated the air. The fierce impact produced is not inferior to the collision between advanced ninjutsu. Not only that, the electric fire from the lightning that overflowed from the lightning-style chakra armor ignited other shells, causing a series of explosions at once. White Fang had anticipated this and let the others quickly disperse. However, without Wuan's hand strength and haki coverage, the power of the cannonball is only the level of the superposition of several detonating charms. However, dozens of people were affected by Fighting Club. For the opposite Cloud Shinobi, Konoha made a fortune. After the punch and kick just now, Wuan and third Raikage swung back. Falling down beside White Fang, Wuan said with a false eye, I have heard that Raikage is not slow in the past, but I have never heard of them being able to move instantaneously. White Fang also frowned tightly, and immediately followed. After realizing it, he said, I remember, Cloud Shinobi has a special space ninjutsu for transmitting materials to N.A.N technique. Ordinary people will not be able to withstand the high-intensity space compression, but if it is a third Raikage who has been trained to such a degree, but it is possible Wuan also remembered that during the Fourth Ninja World War, in order to deal with Uchiha Madara, Tsunade and fourth Raikage also used this trick. Although White Fang does not have N.A.N, his observational power is not inferior to his son. Perhaps he originally planned to show up behind us when our entire army was dispatched to meet Cloud Shinobi, trying to hit us by surprise, but was interrupted by your artillery tactics? So that was the case, but now we still have the upper hand. Wuan took a step and said with a smile, Uncle, you lead the army to deal with the guys on the other side, I'll take care of this ugly monster. You? White Fang frowned. Third Raikage has the strength of the peak of cage level. Neither Lord Hokage nor I are sure to beat him. If it is fourth Raikage AI or Killer B, White Fang can still be given to Wu-An. But third Raikage, the difficulty seems a bit high. The stronger the enemy, the more excited I will be. Don't worry, I never plan to die here. Wuan spoke and rushed towards third Raikage on his own initiative. Seeing this, White Fang stopped talking nonsense. He pulled out his saber directly, raised it and shouted, Chong. For a time, the two armies completely fought together. Wuan and third Raikage, on the other side of the battlefield, entered a heads-up. Little devil, you want to deal with the old man alone. You are too arrogant, right? Although Wuan's height is not as malnourished as Naruto, and has reached the height of an ordinary adult man, his relatively immature face also made third Raikage guess his approximate age. To allow such a kid to deal with himself, is he underestimating his name as the strongest Raikage in history? You should feel honored that your opponent is me in 5.3, and make a notice. In this war, you are dead in my hands. Wuan covered his arms with both fists and waved towards third Raikage with a grinning grin. Bullshit kid. Lateral bolt of pain. The flowers are fancy. Wuan laughed and taunted, his fist hit the hand knife. The fierce collision broke out again, and the two people who were enough to represent the strongest physical ninja in the world finally faced off again. Feeling the terrifying power from the opposite fist, third Raikage's face also changed. This kid really didn't speak big words. Okay, that's awesome, that kid. Following AI's side, Tutai, who was third Raikage's deputy, stared at Wuan who was fighting with third Raikage in the distance. Whoosh! An electric arc flashed. Seeing to take the name of the soil platform, Tutai's pupils shrank sharply, and saw the shadow of the dead knife, Konoha's White Fang. At this time, do you still have time to worry about others? Tutai, on the battlefield, White Fang faced the enemy as if he had changed. His face and words were completely indifferent. Insanely hot pear thunder knife. Another figure rushed from the side. Seeing this, White Fang suddenly turned the saber in his hand, blocking the opponent's elbow blow, and said coldly, is it the son of third Raikage? There was little change when talking with the future five shadows. AI stared at White Fang angrily, gritted his teeth and said, "Your opponent is me, Konoha's White Fang. The strength is good, but it's not my opponent yet." With a cold voice from White 23 Teeth, his arm shook, and he bounced AI away. "Ba Gaia Luo. K Gaia Luo. I am here too." The asterisk 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 D. Huge octopus feet came from the other side. White Fang immediately focused the Thunder Attribute Chakra on the blade, his arm was wrapped in the arc, and he cut quickly, cutting off all the feet of the octopus. After retreating a few meters away, White Fang looked at the opponent with false eyes. Is Cloud Shinobi's 8 Tails Jinchuriki? It seems that the pressure on this side is not much less than that on Third Reikage. N.A.N and Third Reikage are at least 200 to 300 meters around, and there is no third person. In the cognition of most people, the attack range of physical skills is no more than hands and feet. But these two people, with one punch and one kick, the shock wave that erupted, every time it was not inferior to A-level ninjutsu. Guillotine drop. Third Reikage roared, and the tall and burly body had jumped high, splitting his right foot down. N.A.N crossed his hands and blocked the opponent's heel. Puffed. As N.A.N received this impact, the surrounding ground sank to a depth of at least 20 centimeters. Iron body broken. The defensive boxing power instantly turned into an attack. However, this is only a breakthrough in the Leishi Chakra armor, and it is not enough to damage Third Reikage's own body. You know, he can resist S-rank ninjutsu like Spiral Shuriken. No play. Kid. Third Reikage turned around in midair, grabbed N.A.N's two shoulders, and buckled him towards the ground. Thunder Eye Blast dash. Boom. The ground with a radius of 100 meters, with this fall, all turned into jagged rubble. Have you won? Many Cloud Shinobi ninjas around shouted excitedly. The Konoha Shinobi is worried. Third Reikage stared at N.A.N, whose upper body was held on the ground. His back is covered by a layer of pure black unknown power, unscathed. When you Cloud Shinobi fight, you all like to yell? Isn't it too noisy? N.A.N sneered, this kind of trick. In the next moment, N.A.N's right foot seemed to be showing the surface of the lotus flower, and it kicked Third Reikage's chin. Taking advantage of the moment when the Third Reikage's movements were stagnant, the person jumped up, and his aura suddenly changed. The first door, open the door open. Whoosh! The body turned into an afterimage, and appeared behind Third Reikage almost at the same time as it disappeared. Shave faster than before. You can do it whatever you want. N.A.N let out a low, armed hand stuck on Third Reikage's shoulders, and slammed him down as if he had treated him just now. Thunder Eye blasted bullets. It seems that the same action was copied by N.A.N, but there is no lightning-style chakra. But with the powerful power and the addition of armed color, the power is not inferior to the Third Reikage just now. When the second impact hit the ground, the entire ground within 100 meters around it shattered. Master Reikage. This time, I was worried about changing to Cloud Shinobi. However, Third Reikage has not yet risen from the ground. In the cracks of the shattered ground, countless arc flashes erupted, squeezing them into children's powder at any time. N.A.N was too familiar to block his face, and looked forward with illusion. At this moment, Third Reikage has stood up again, and his right hand has become a hand knife. The 897 hand knife in the right hand in lightning-style chakra is also bursting with lightning-style chakra. Appeared. It's Third Reikage's stunt, Hell Stab. The Cloud Shinobi ninjas screamed again. N.A.N watched this scene coldly, and suddenly smiled. It's a Hell Stab that hurts himself. Third Reikage's complexion changed, and the wound in front of Yu Huang began to faintly ache because of N.A.N's words, and he gritted his teeth and said coldly, "Boy, where did you hear about this?" During the battle with 8 Tails, he accidentally fell down, causing the Hell Stab to hit his Moon Hungarian mouth. This has always been regarded as a shame by Third Reikage. Even his son and his deputy did not know about it. Why would such a kid from outside the village know? Is it possible that he can still read mind? Second gate, stop the door open. Armed color fist bone. However, the only one who answered him was N.A.N's more violent offense. Since you don't want to answer, then take this answer to another world. Third Reikage became even more angry and became more determined to kill N.A.N. Fourth gate, open the wound door. N.A.N's body has burst out of steam similar to the steam emitted by Guy from the 8 inner gates in the future. This is the state Guy can only enter when he opens the 6th gate. And N.A.N. Fourth gate is enough. Coupled with the burning smell on the surface of the armed color, N.A.N now looks like a demon god who has walked out of hell. The clean smile and the burning steam made no one on the battlefield dare to underestimate his power. At the same time, the hell thrust of Third Reikage's right-hand knife only has one finger left. This is his strongest spear. Master Reikage, our side has suffered a lot, so let's retreat for now. At this time, the turret at the back of the battlefield condensed chakra on the throat, and the shouted voice quickly spread to the entire battlefield. Naturally, it also includes Third Reikage's ears. After all, at the beginning of the war, N.A.N's Fistbone Meteor Group inflicted considerable damage on Cloud Shinobi. Now, as the fighting time deepens, it begins to show up gradually. Hell stabs a consistent hand. Third Raikage heard the words and immediately launched his strongest attack. He had no objection to the withdrawal, but in the end, he wanted to try to solve this kid. At least use his strongest spear to leave him a lot of damage. Fist bones, broken bones. Wu Wen's fist bursts with blue veins, covered with armed color, and greets him. The moment of fist-finger contact. Time seems to have fallen into a standstill. In the next instant, a shock wave that ruined the world broke out. The overwhelming gust of wind blows the scattered stones into the air, and the strong impact is like bullets, forcing the surrounding ninjas to raise their hands to resist. The gunpowder smoke gradually dispersed. The two stood with their backs facing each other, and the stalemate lasted for about 5 seconds. Puffy. Suddenly, the back of Wu Wen's right hand cracked with bleeding marks, blood soared and overflowed from it, breaking through an incision about 10 centimeters long. Master Raikage N.A.N. Seeing this scene, many Cloud Shinobi showed excitement. Although Wu Wen was not killed, it was extremely effective in boosting morale. However, what responded to them was Wu Wen's sneer. In an instant, Third Raikage's steps rose up. Everyone stared at him and found that a fist mark appeared in the sky above his moon and Xiong, which was almost sunken to a depth of about 2 centimeters. The moment just now, the moment before the two sides' tricks were about to collide together. Wu Wen avoided the head-on confrontation with Third Raikage, just like later generations dealing with his Naruto of Impure World reincarnation, aiming at his wound before the month of Hungary. But the price was that he was pierced by a blood stain by the hell burst. You brat, come here. The key to the move, Third Raikage's mouth overflowed with blood, unwilling to look at Wu Wen. He never expected that Wu Wen would avoid the face-to-face confrontation and attack his wound during the last 1,000 fishing shots. The limbs are well developed and the mind is simple. It is really suitable to describe you group of Cloud Shinobi fools. If you want to scold me as mean, you can go to another world and scold as much as you want. I will kill you now. Wu Wenbei smiled and walked towards Third Raikage. Father. AI looked shocked, as if rushing to rescue. However, a 7 to 8 meter high electric light sword chi came with a slash. Block his way down, turning to see those cold eyes. It's Konoha's White Fang. Don't underestimate me, kid. Third Raikage suddenly yelled and hit the ground with a punch. The violent shaking made Wu Wen, who opened the fourth gate, unsteady. With his current physique, he didn't feel the obvious pain until the third gate. But dealing with other ninjas, even cage-level ninjas may be okay. It's not a joke to feel tired when dealing with a physique expert like Third Raikage. Tai. Third Raikage drank again. Lava-style guard Moyu. Tai, which had no sense of existence, suddenly made a move, as if spitting out bubble gum, spit out a rubber ball from his mouth and immediately wrapped Wu Wen in it. What's this stuff? Wu Wen frowned and punched it subconsciously, but failed to break the rubber ball that had wrapped him up. Similar to rubber fruit, ordinary blows are useless? Wu Wen plated the armed color on his fist again, and raised his right finger pistol, puff. Once again, puncture the rubber ball directly. But when Wu Wen broke free, he found that Third Raikage had already returned to the Cloud Shinobi army. Master White Fang, do you want to chase? A Konoha Jonin asked for instructions. White Fang turned his head to look at Wu Wen behind. It was found that the other party had spread his feet together, lying directly on the ground torn apart because of the war. No, this time we have already won a good start. If we continue to catch up, the probability of winning will not increase. White Fang retracted his saber into the scabbard and chuckled. Everyone performed very well in the first battle. Tonight, make an exception to allow everyone to drink a little wine as a celebration. Oh, the audience cheered immediately. During the war, everyone did not drink. Even at this level, for them, Qian Yo Zhao, it is definitely a great reward. More importantly, if you win the battle, you will raise the morale of the ninja army to the extreme. Achievement: Top Physique Duel, Template Character, Monkey D. Garp, Completion Rate, 44.76%. After Wu Wen heard the sound of the system, his eyes closed and he was ready to go to sleep. The soreness of the muscles is unexpected. Do you want me to carry you a ride? At this moment, White Fang walked over and asked with a faint smile. How about changing to a female ninja? Wu Wen half opened his eyes and asked. I will tell real red. The corners of White Fang's mouth were raised higher. Then you. Wu Wen looked helpless. No way. Who calls Ziri Zhenhong that old man likes to shake his face more and more in the past 2 years? 3 months of wartime passed gradually. When Third Raikage confronts Wu Wen again, he can feel the kid's growth again. While secretly sighing why such a physique genius was not born in Cloud Shinobi Village, he also became more determined to get rid of this kid. Anyway, on the Cloud Shinobi battlefield, Konoha has always had the upper hand since the start of the war. It's just that the terrain is not suitable for strategy, so most of the battles are head-to-head. This is naturally the favorite for this group of barbarians of Cloud Shinobi, and this kind of battle will often become a war of attrition, which is difficult to end in a short time. Dinner time. All the ninjas who lived in the tents came out. Several people in the tents gathered around a pot and used wooden bowls to serve soup. White Fang, the commander of the body, sat across from him, Wu, and said, because there was too little meat in the soup, and he was a little unpleasant, the current situation is very good. If this continues, it should be over within a year. 1 year sounds like a long time, but compared to the 6 full years of the Second Ninja War, it is already quite fast. However, the reason why the Second Ninja War 897 lasted for such a long time is that Konoha Cage level at that time only had Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo Old Immortals. And Shimura Danzo, like Luo Xia, even at the peak, he barely reached cage level. It's incomparable to top cage level figures like Sarutobi Hiruzen, White Fang, and Third Raikage. In the Second Ninja War, Konoha faced many hostile countries again, and the pressure was huge. In the later period, White Fang and Konoha Sunin gradually entered a cage level state, and rising stars such as Namikaze Minato gradually grew up. This quickly ended the war. Therefore, it can be seen that cage level ninjas cannot decide the outcome of a war alone like Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama, but it is also enough to reverse the situation of a war. Of course, the prerequisite has to look at what the enemy's situation is like. If you can kill either AI or Killer Bee, then the war can be ended immediately. Looking at the wild vegetable soup without 2 pieces of meat, Wu really has no appetite, so he put down the bowl directly. Do you think killing a ninja who has entered the shadow level is as simple as that? What's more, it's still in a chaotic battlefield. White Fang shook his head and smiled bitterly. In Heads Up, his strength is definitely above AI or Killer Bee, but the two of them are teaming up, and the situation on the battlefield is chaotic. If they are in danger, the other Cloud Shinobi ninjas around them will definitely come forward to rescue them even if they risk death. A cage-level powerhouse is far better than everything for a village. I am afraid that only the ninja village, where geniuses like Konoha come forth in large numbers, can tolerate the constant waste of Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo. From the current White Fang to the future Uchiha Shisui. These old people who like to play politics don't know if they think Konoha has too much, and they have to waste some to be comfortable. Noting Wuen's look, White Fang frowned and asked, "What's the matter? His complexion is not so good?" "Nothing." Wuen got up and walked outside the camp. "I'll go outside to find something to eat. No matter what those old guys are doing, as long as the idea dares to hit him or the people around him, he must be killed." At this moment, 2 wild rabbits passed through the bushes in front of them, very fast, and in a blink of an eye they got into the bushes on the other side, CDFD. Although Wuen waved his finger, he smiled and said, "The dinner is over. This is the Cloud Shinobi battlefield." When the war lasted for the 4th month, Konoha's ninja, used for communications, flew into the barracks led by White Fang with a sad news. After receiving this news, White Fang immediately summoned Wuen and the ninjas above the Jonin level in the military camp to the main sword camp. It was announced to everyone that the battlefield of Rock Shinobi, the country of the earth, had been ambushed for a surprise attack. Now that the loss is considerable, Sarutobi Hiruzen sent an order to let White Fang, who had the upper hand on the Cloud Shinobi battlefield, send a small wave of reinforcements to the logistics team. There are 3 cage levels where they will be flat? Wuen, who was almost indifferent to war, couldn't help but complain after hearing this news. At this time in the original book, Tsunade had panasemia and couldn't make it to the front line, and White Fang was already dead. In other words, compared with the original work, Konoha has lost at least 2 cage-level powerhouses. And now Konoha's state is better than the original, but it will fail? If the commander is a mediocre, that's fine, but the commander-in-chief of the Rock Shinobi battlefield is Orochimaru. From the beginning to the end of the original book, his IQ has never been dropped. White Fang explained again, Orochimaru suffered some injuries and said it was caused by an information leak. The specific reason is still under investigation. Having said this, White Fang frowned and said in a deep voice, "Those are very secret, and only the management knows about it. They will actually be leaked." Orochimaru and Tsunade are extremely puzzled. Could it be that Konoha Pot King? Wuen asked. The King of Pot? White Fang was taken aback. Why didn't he hear this nickname? It's the Shimura group, hey. Before Wuen could speak clearly, White Fang interrupted him immediately and waved his hand. "Okay, everyone retreats to rest. Now Rock Shinobi is tight, we need to step up to end the war." "Yes." The other Jonin nodded and walked out of the main camp. But White Fang cast a look at Wuen and motioned for him to stay. "Although you know that your kid likes to mess around, but I didn't expect to this level. Do you know that Danzo's eyeliner may exist in any department of Konoha? Yes, most troublesome guy is watching." When only Wuen and White Fang were left in the main account, White Fang said solemnly, "Don't doubt, among the group of people just now, there was Danzo's eyeliner." Wuen's words were astonishing, and White Fang's expression suddenly changed. "How do you know?" "I can perceive people's emotions from my sights and hearings." When I was about to say the word Shimura Danzo, that person's emotions appeared a great fluctuating anger. Wuen sneered and said, "There is no doubt that this is the emotion that Danzo's dog-legged can produce." White Fang said in disbelief, "Although I heard that your own perceptual technique can sensitively detect the enemy's actions, I didn't expect that even emotions can be sensed. That guy, I decided to kill him, just say that the cause of death was death in battle. What do you think? Wu En asked. White Fang didn't expect Wu En to make a decisive decision like this. The eyeliner arranged by Jen actually killed it when he said it, but after thinking about it for 5 seconds, he also nodded. Don't think that Konoha's White Fang is a good old man. Those who are familiar with him know that once he is separated from daily life, he is completely changed. Wu En nodded, temporarily left the main camp, and when no one noticed, came to a corner of the barracks. At this time, a Konoha Jonin, summoning out a ninja eagle, ready to send a secret letter. Just when Shinobu flew less than 10 meters, a flash of light that was difficult to catch by the naked eye struck, and instantly pierced the body of the shinobi eagle, and fell from the air. Who? The Konoha Jonin was startled, and suddenly pulled out kunao and looked around. Danzo, the old man, stretched his hand long enough. Even the Sarutobi clan has his lackeys. Wu En walked out from the side barracks and walked towards the other side with a sneer. That's right, the ninja who was going to inform Danzo was a Jonin from the Sarutobi clan named Sarutobi fetching Tibet. You, what are you talking about, Mr. Wu En? Sarutobi took a look of guilty conscience, and while backing half a step, cold sweat dripped from his profile face. Although he is only 12 years old, he can even say crazy performance because of his outstanding performance on the battlefield. Many ninjas of Konoha, including Jonin, have gradually changed their names to Wu En. I didn't want to tell you so much. Halfway through the conversation, Wu En suddenly disappeared in place. In the next instant, flashing in front of Sarutobi Takuzo, finger pistol had pierced his heart. In the unbelievable and unwilling eyes of the other party, Wu En grinned lightly. Danzo's running dog was killed, and I did not have any fluctuations. Sarutobi took possession of it. The cause of death, died in battle. Danzo will receive this information. Thank you, N.S. After speaking, Wu En drew his finger from the opponent Yuseong and punched his body down the cliff. Doesn't even kill Jonin get progress points anymore? Although Sarutobi was only a special Jonin, after killing him, the progress value did not change, which still made Wu En a little unhappy. Main business. Seeing Wu En coming back, White Fang raised his eyes and asked, "Did you kill it?" Wu En threw the secret letter on the eagle's foot ring to White Fang. When White Fang opened it, he didn't show a look that was too shocked, but after reading it, he threw it into the candlelight next to it as the night light. He is such a person. Regardless of whether there is actual action or not, anyone who criticizes him will be remembered. White Fang sighed, then looked at Wu En. Are you sure Danzo leaked information to Uegakur? Asuma had woke up before, and he also said that when the Konoha Chunin troops found him, they encountered Rock Shinobi's ninja. After a hard fight, he escaped under the death protection of that team of Chunin. Because outsiders don't know that Asuma is Sarutobi Hiruzen's son, they only act as if the other party is an ordinary Konoha. Otherwise, the better choice should be to take Asuma away and wait until the future war to threaten Sarutobi Hiruzen. This incident made Sarutobi Hiruzen even more angry. Although Danzo, the old man, had a lot of bad operations, the original killed White Fang and killed Shisui, and in the end he died on a half-dead Suzuki. But think about it carefully, no matter how stupid he is, he won't leak information to Rock Shinobi at this time. Although the disagreement with Sarutobi Hiruzen is getting worse, he shouldn't want to completely fall out with the other party. Wu En said, who knows? It doesn't matter how the village is with me, but if it hits me, it will be different. White Fang knew Wu En's temperament, and didn't say much, only said, Konoha is now completely monopolized by the elders, and we can only take one step and count one step. Wu En didn't think as much as White Fang. What his hind thought was only to increase his strength. Once it reaches the level beyond cage level, not to mention reaching the level of 6 pads, it is just a state of filthy soil. There is no level of Uchiha Madara or Senju Hashirama who has the full strength before his death. Danzo and his like are not worth mentioning. Both the White Fang and Konoha headquarters sent reinforcements to the Rock Shinobi battlefield. And in less than 2 months, another piece of bad news came. The Battle of Shinyubi Bridge failed. Suddenly, the situation that had been fairly evenly matched was suddenly broken. In the Minato squad in the battle of the main assault god Ubi Bridge, Namikaze Minato was ambushed by hundreds of Rock Shinobi ninjas and was seriously injured. Uchiha Obito, death. Kakashi loses his left eye and transplants the Sharingan that Uchiha Obito left him during his lifetime. Nohara Lin survived. If the previous failure caused by the leakage of information is just a bit strange to Wu En, when the news came this time, he was completely astonished. The Battle of the Shinsubi Bridge can be said to be the key surprise battle of the Third Ninja War. The original book clearly writes about victory. How can you fail? But it is not clear now. It is different from Konoha's huge advantage on the Cloud Shinobi battlefield. Konoha is in a disadvantageous state on the battlefield of Rock Shinobi. Namikaze Minato was injured again, and was unable to spare any manpower for a while. Sarutobi Hiruzen had to tear down the east wall to repair the west wall. Let White Fang lead the elite team to reinforcements. On the Cloud Shinobi battlefield, Wu En can only give full power to Wu En. Can't Jiraiya be dispatched? When White Fang was about to lead an elite team to support Orochimaru and others on the battlefield of the Kingdom of Earth, Wu suddenly asked. Currently there are 2 cage-level ninja guards in Konoha village, 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen and one of Sunin Jiraiya. As for Danzo's shit-chucking stick, not to mention how badly his strength has degraded, it's harder to ask him for help than to get to the sky. To be honest, Wu thinks this method of demolishing the east wall and repairing the west wall is really stupid. Although he doesn't care about the life and death of the village, Konoha's life is quite comfortable. It is a better choice for him to stay than to die. White Fang explained, because of the disappearance of 3rd Kaze Cage, Sand Shinobi is noisy at the top. In the past, Cho was the leader, and the factions that opposed the alliance with Konoha did not know what they would do in 1989. Although Mist Shinobi has been standing still, he has to guard against it. It is necessary to stay in the village with 2 cage levels and certain combat strength. White Fang explained clearly. Although Sand Shinobi and Mist Shinobi have not done anything to Konoha, but at the time 3rd Kaze Cage was also under great leadership pressure in the Konoha alliance, Cho and other factions that opposed the alliance took advantage of the disappearance of 3rd Kaze Cage and began to make trouble again. I don't know if I will repeat the second ninja war Sand Shinobi and Konoha's war. And Mist Shinobi, although since the end of the Sengoku era, has not had any conflict with Konoha, but who knows if there will be a problem. After all, once Mist Shinobi acts, the first country to pass is the country of fire. Therefore, the village must ensure that there are 2 shadows in order to be safe enough. I'll leave it to you here. Although we have the advantage, it's better for you to stand by and wait for assistance. Before White Fang left, he finally exhorted Wu N. Although the past few months have passed, Wu N's progress has been seen by White Fang. But after all, the opponent has 3 cage levels. After he left, White Fang didn't think Wu could stop him alone. However, Konoha's overall advantage should be enough to make up for it. But it's better to be more cautious and wait until you have settled the matter on the land of your own country. White Fang left, Wu temporarily took over the position of frontline commander. After sitting in this position, Izuna immediately ordered that his talented disciple, Uchiha Shisui, and many Chunin-class ninjas staying in Konoha village should be transferred. Although it is only at Chunin level, Mangekyo Sharingan has not been turned on, but Uchiha Shisui's fame was almost at the end of the 3rd Ninja War. I just told him to advance. About a week later, Uchiha Shisui waited for hundreds of Chunin troops to arrive. This is the last thing Sarutobi Hiruzen can give Wu N. All the rest is left behind Konoha, and must not be taken out again. Going to the battlefield at the age of 6 is enough for you to brag about, Shisui. Looking at a Shisui dressed in traditional black clothes from the Uchiha family, Wu chuckled. Teacher, I finished my birthday last month, and I am now 7 years old. Shisui made a gesture of 7. It doesn't matter, the situation is not very optimistic now. There is only one request, don't die. Different from White Fang's serious style, Wu, who was sitting in the commander's position, crossed his feet and placed it directly on the table, letting him step on the important documents on the table, and he ignored them. Shisui looked black, but he didn't bother to care about it. But Shisui didn't know that in the next few months, all the civil duties of Wu would be taken care of by him. Nearly 10 days passed. The event that White Fang left the Cloud Shinobi battlefield was finally known to 3rd Raikage. Without any hesitation, these simple-minded muscular brothers immediately took the initiative to attack, and it is not an exaggeration to describe it as out of the nest. In the past, the battle mode with Cloud Shinobi was basically Wu vs 3rd Raikage, White Fang vs 4th Raikage plus Killer B. After White Fang left, Wu had to face 3 cage levels alone. Although there were Jonin from Hyaga, Sarutobi and other families to help, it was obviously not as smooth as before. The advantage that Konoha had previously occupied was also recaptured by Cloud Shinobi bit by bit. The importance of the cage-level peak powerhouse is fully demonstrated at this moment. Fortunately, the Killer Bee at this time does not have the power of the Master Eight Tails, and dare not completely turn into a beast. The growth of Wu has repeatedly made the opposite Cloud Shinobi dumbfounded. Cloud Shinobi couldn't attack Konoha's northern battlefield for a long time. Wu, it's too difficult to deal with. 2 months after White Fang left, a terrible news came. Rock Shinobi's outburst in the army led by White Fang. In order to cover the evacuation of the army including his son Kakashi, White Fang faced the pursuit of 10,000 Rock Shinobi army alone. After 2 days and 1 night of frenzied fighting, he finally died of exhaustion. The troops Kakashi and the others belonged to, also relying on White Fang's death insurance, escaped from Rock Shinobi's pursuit. But because he was beaten back, he is currently recuperating in a small village in the border area of the Country of Fire. After Wu got the news, he couldn't return to God for a long time. This is clearly the cause of death of 3rd Raikage in the original book. Why has it become White Fang now? Although because of his own prevention, White Fang escaped Danzo's frame 6 years ago and prevented him from committing suicide. However, after 6 years, did he finally die on the battlefield in a heroic way? Compared with the original White Fang, this is indeed a 5.3 better ending. However, although Wu-Wen cannot say a great friend, but at least it is the death of a kind uncle who is a forgotten acquaintance. It is the first time that Wu-Wen has experienced the death of the people around him in this life. What kind of feeling is it, teacher? No, are you okay? Seeing that Wu-Wen burned the kind of information letter stating the death of White Fang without saying a word, Shisui asked with some worry. What can I do? Wu-Wen lay on his back in the chair. It's just a little uncomfortable. At the end of Konoha's 45th year, less than a year after the Third Ninja War was fought, White Fang died. Different from the original book, he did not die as a waste of abandoning mission, but as a hero who saved his companions. Compared with the original work, this is a pretty good ending, but this is only from Wu-Wen's own point of view. But there is no doubt that the death of White Fang dealt a huge blow to Konoha's morale. Orochimaru was also seriously injured in the previous battle, and Namikaze Minato temporarily took over the position of commander-in-chief of the battlefield of the land of the country. And after knowing that White Fang had died, Third Raikage did not miss the opportunity at all. He knew that the death of White Fang, who had a higher status than Sunin in Konoha now, would destroy Konoha's morale absolutely devastating. Take this opportunity to attack Konoha immediately. So, on the night when I heard the news of White Fang's death, Third Raikage immediately summoned his son and Cloud Shinobi's 8 Tails Jinchuriki Killer Bee, and draw a large part of the ninja out of the logistics force. Cloud Shinobi has a total of nearly 2,800 people on the front line, attacking the entire line. This number has surpassed the number of Konoha shinobi currently under Wu-Wen. Teacher. Third Raikage led the army to fight over. According to the observation of Byakugan of the Hyaga clan, the number is more than 2,500. Shisui quickly ran into the main account and shouted to Wu-An, get up from the chair. Wu-Wen has a dangerous smile on his face. This old ugly monster should have died long ago. This time I will send him to the west. Shisui swallowed subconsciously. Although Conquerors has not yet been awakened, Wu-An's momentum is really amazing. On the almost endless plain, you can hear the fierce battle roar from the opposite Cloud Shinobi from far away. As if this war, they have already won. Teacher, do you want to bring a cannonball over W? Shisui, who was standing nearby, asked. Since Wu-En's Fistbone Meteor Group played a major role in the first battle, Sarutobi Hiruzen specifically asked the owner of Konoha Weapon Store to purchase a batch of shells, specifically for Shisui and their reinforcements to send Wu-Wen over. No, I want to use my fist directly this time. Wu-Wen pulled his knuckles and made a click sound. The death of White Fang cannot be said to be sorrowful, but just like what I said before, it is really unhappy. With a wave of Wu-Wen's big hand, the ninjas behind Konoha used them. Thousands of people released the ninjutsu like a rain of meteors and fell towards the army that was attacked by Cloud Shinobi on the opposite side. The defense forces headed by Tutai were well prepared. Dozens of people rushed forward in one breath. Earth-style earth flow wall. Lava-style Jummu wall. The dual protection of earth-style and lava-style will temporarily block endless ninjutsu. Although it is not enough to fight for less than 10 seconds, it is enough. Headed by Third Raikage and AI, Cloud Shinobi's top combat power rushed forward. Upon seeing this, Wu-Wen raised his right foot, and then fell fiercely in the form of a slash. Tempest kick shake off. It is 10 meters high, and the cyan flash like sword light rushes with destructive power. The others quit. Third Raikage yelled, clenched his right hand into a fist, and slashed at Tempest kick, lightning straight. Bang! The fist covering the lightning-style chakra smashed the shock wave generated by Tempest kick, and the overflowing waves blew some weak genin and even shinin into the air. AI was so excited when he saw this, he shouted, "Father, let's give that kid together." He didn't wait for him to say the word decision at the end of the sentence. An afterimage swept behind him, and the Third Raikage on the front right and Killer Bee on the left were surprised. Bone broken. Wu-Wen grinned coldly. AI, be careful. Third Raikage hurriedly shouted, but he was far away, too late to withdraw to save his son. Big brother, I'll save you. Killer Bee stuck the octopus feet of 8 Tails from behind and rolled towards Wu-Wen, trying to restrain the opponent's actions in this way. Late. The fist covered in armed color hit AI's back hard. Although I don't know how much damage it can cause, it blows him like a meteor to hundreds of meters away. In the next moment, 8 Tails' octopus feet were tightly rolled into Wu-An. How can I hit my big brother like this? Baga. But Hia. I'm going to roll you to death like this, oh. Killer Bee sang the weird rap, constantly strengthening the power of his tail, just like trying to strangle the prey with a python, and tattoo Wu-Wen inside. Third gate, Shenmue open. Wu-Wen's indifferent voice came from the octopus's feet. Boom! In the next instant, the huge octopus feet seemed to be cut into pieces by a kitchen knife, exploded from the middle, and splashed around. Nanny! Killer Bee was surprised. Wu-Wen has already rushed towards him, with an iron fist of armed color attached. Just before hitting Killer Bee in the face, the Third Raikage in front finally rushed back. Knock him away and take Wu-Wen's fist with his palm full of thunder and lightning. But even so, the impact coming from the front still drove his body as strong as a tail beast, hitting him backwards. Hum dash. The third gate opened continuously, and the body was already a little red, coupled with the armed color that covered both fists, Chanyo Zhao, so that Wu entered the Cloud Shinobi ninjas that scared the Cloud Shinobi at the beginning of the battle. Devil form. As far as Wu is concerned, it is not painful for him to open the third gate at all. Cough country. I was beaten out just now. I don't know how many rocks I hit. AI, who was lying on the ground, slowly got up and spit out a mouthful of blood. He was unwilling to look at Wu, this be asterisk 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 D, in the middle of the battlefield. Because of the armed color and 8 inner gates, Wu, whose skin was already black and red, pointed to Third Raikage and smiled with a healer. Third Raikage, you will definitely die here today, definitely. Not only Shisui, but also Raikage and Killer Bee as enemies. Wu is in a different state today. Usually on the battlefield, although he did not show mercy, he basically had a cynical smile at all times. But this time, the smile disappeared without a trace, replaced by the killing intent. It's actually the same as Garp. If you are facing ordinary pirates, Garp will take a joke attitude and easily solve them. And facing the heinous party, or the enemy like Roger, usually his funny attributes will disappear without a trace, and he will be transformed into a marine evil spirit who is feared by all pirates on the sea. Thanks to me, you should be content if you live at least half a month longer. The smile receded, and the ghostly spirit on his body was even greater than before. Fourth gate, hurt the door, open. Armed color, fist bone. Third Raikage immediately folded the fingers of his right hand into a hand knife. His strongest ninjutsu, Hell Thrust, is ready. However, at this moment, Third Raikage also saw Wu 10 meters away from him. After a moment, he has disappeared. N.A. Third Raikage was taken aback, but he didn't even give him time for surprise. Wu flashed in front of him, hitting an uppercut. Bang! The air seemed to explode. Third Raikage was shot directly into the air to a height of more than 1 meter. Master Raikage would be hit like that. How is it possible? How is this possible? The Cloud Shinobi ninjas who thought that this war was already a win, couldn't believe it. What dash? Wu let out a turbid breath. Before Third Raikage flew out, the fists of both hands were already madly hitting him. Puff. Bang. Puffed. Bang. Puffing. Master Raikage is completely at a disadvantage. Tutai couldn't believe it at all. It's been less than a year since those two people fought for the first time, right? How terrible is the progress of that kid who is less than 13 years old? Is it comparable to Third Raikage, the pinnacle of cage level? Don't be too proud, CDFD, kid. Biting his mouth shield, he swallowed the blood that was almost sprayed back into the throat. Third Raikage volleyed back and slashed with a hand knife, Hell Stab. He did not hesitate to fight wildly, directly facing the forefinger Hell Stab. Bang! Taste! The soft crack of knuckles. Whose? Looking again, the middle finger of Third Raikage's right hand was slightly bent, and the flesh of the middle finger was squeezed together. The knuckle of his middle finger was shattered. It hurt Third Raikage's eyebrows, but he didn't slack off the attack. In addition to Namikaze Minato, who uses Flying Thunder God, the two fastest people in the world shuttle between the battlefields. Wherever he went, he was hit by fists and feet. Whether it was a stone along the edge or a weapon that fell on the ground, it was instantly smashed into debris. Hell Spike. Three-finger Hell Stab. This kind of chicken rib ninjutsu, go back and practice for 10 years. But you don't have this chance. Wu shouted. The right foot is armed with color coverage. Tempest Kick Black Shake Off. The powerful physique collision is staged again and again. In Cloud Shinobi, no, it should be said that all ninjas can't believe it. The Third Raikage, known as the strongest Raikage, has been eating thin under Wu's hands time and time again. Even if Wu was slightly injured, the degree of injury on both sides was completely different. One blue and one black flashes constantly shuttled back and forth between the battlefields. Each collision means that the two of them passed by Shinigami once. Too fast. Even if Cloud Shinobi has 2 cage levels, Killer Bee and AI, they can't catch up. Hell Spike. Third Raikage did not give up, and the Hell Thrust of 2 fingers attacked again. Wu's right hand turned into a black elbow because of the armed color. Third Raikage's Hell Thrust pierced a little bit, and it couldn't go any further. Blood dripped from Wu's elbow to the ground. But a closer look revealed that it only broke the skin and couldn't continue to penetrate it. Iron body, broken jade. The recoil was shocked, pushing Third Raikage back several steps. You're done playing, Third Raikage. At the moment when the voice fell, Wu's eyes turned scarlet together, with a ferocious expression, and Haki exploded, showing the power of the pinnacle of cage level. The 5th gate, the gate is open. The violent air pressure swept across the battlefield. Well, is this kid still a human? Seeing Wu's appearance, everyone couldn't help but think the same. Hell stabs a consistent hand. I said, you are dead today. Wu clenched his right fist, Bone Meteor Fist. At the moment the finger and fist collided. First, the ground under the feet of the two of them couldn't bear it at first. It was like tofu that was slapped down by the palm of a hand, and it was blown to pieces. The overflowing storm hit, let alone blowing people away. Some weak ninjas were directly spitting blood out by the pressure. Even though Cloud Shinobi are some powerful ninjas with powerful physical skills and swordsmanship, many people shook their mouths with blood under this trick. Why, what's going on? Bagaya Road? After more than 10 seconds of rippling, the aftermath finally calmed down. Killer Bee looked forward through the sunglasses, feeling lingering. Puffy. The moment the gunpowder dissipated, everyone only saw that in the zero-distance state, Wu hit another left fist and directly penetrated Third Raikage's Moon Hungarian mouth. The fist stretched in from Yu Exun's chamber, and then stuck out from the back. Everyone who saw it for a while trembled, whether it was the enemy or his own. Achieved a special achievement: the death of Third Raikage, template character, Monkey D. Garp, completion rate, 50%, activation of special skills, Conqueror's Haki. One Piece does not mention whether Garp has it or not, but most people guess that he should have the standard tricks that this powerhouse has. It's just not used. Wow. Wuhan pulled his fist out of Third Raikage's body. The blood tunneled out of his wound like a faucet that couldn't be shut off. Father. When Third Raikage's body fell in various ways and the blood hole in Yu Exing's mouth came into view, AI screams and roars instantly resounded throughout the battlefield. Wuhan shook the blood on his hand, not even looking at the dead Third Raikage on the ground, and pointed to the roaring Fourth Raikage and said, "Next, it's you." With that said, strode towards Fourth Raikage. Retreat! Retreat! Tutai made a decisive decision and directly announced its retreat. Now that the shadow of Yikan is dead, the army is in chaos. Not to mention this battle, even the entire Third Ninja World War can no longer participate in it. Shisui didn't miss this opportunity, and immediately realized that the death of Third Raikage had reduced the morale of the Cloud Shinobi ninjas on the opposite side to the extreme, and immediately raised his ninja and shouted, "Everyone go!" Other Konoha Shinobi people reacted, and the morale of the complex immediately increased to ultimate. One by one, they picked up their weapons and rushed towards the opposite Yun hidden army in excitement. For a time, the sound of fighting sounded again through the clouds above the battlefield. AI. Don't hesitate anymore. Retreat quickly. Seeing Tutai only lasted for a while, the battle situation changed all at once, and immediately shouted to AI, who was in endless sadness and anger. AI wiped away tears and realized that this was a war, not a person's business. He wiped away his tears and looked at Wuhan with hatred, as if he wanted this figure to penetrate deeply into his mind. Then he turned around and shouted, "Withdraw!" For a while, Cloud Shinobi turned around and evacuated collectively. Even the remains of Third Raikage were ignored, and they turned and ran away. Wuhan raised his eyebrows and looked at the Cloud Shinobi army, who turned and fled. Suddenly, his hands were flat, and an indescribable aura waved. Ah! Boom! It seemed like an invisible tsunami swept away. Not only ran away from Cloud Shinobi, but even the weaker Chunin or Genin among the surrounding Konoha Shinobi had weakened his feet, turned over Byakugan, and fell to the ground and fainted. Now Uchiha Shisui, who is Chunin's elite level, also feels a breath of breath in his brain, and quickly stimulates his body with chakra, which relieves him. But when I turned around, I saw Cloud Shinobi and Konoha around, not to mention that hundreds of people had fallen. I'm still a little uncomfortable with the first use, so I solved it by myself. Wuhan said with no apology, waved his hand and shouted, "Kill all the Cloud Shinobi ninjas who passed out on the ground." Conquerors, who had just been shown by Wuhan, was stunned and taken slowly. Shisui and the others, who hadn't been able to slow down, heard this command again, and immediately raised Shinobi or Kunao without hesitation. Take away the lives of those Cloud Shinobi ninjas who were stunned by Conquerors. AI, who was evacuating, saw this scene with bloodshot eyes, and he wished to rush back now and smash Wuhan's body into pieces. Calm down, AI. Tutai squeezed AI's shoulder and said in a deep voice, "Now we have no real strength to fight Konoha again. Lord Raikage is killed in action. The top priority is to return to the village immediately and let you serve as the new Fourth Raikage." AI you wanted to crush his teeth, and finally turned into a powerless roar, and took the remaining large forces and fled back to the Land of Thunder in a desperate manner. After returning to the main camp of the camp, Wuhan sat down for less than a while. Shisui, who was specially promoted to be his deputy, took a report, walked into the camp, and said excitedly, "Teacher, this time I really won a big victory. We Konoha lost less than 200 people, and Cloud Shinobi estimated that it was over 1,000. Wuhan stretched out, It's really a big victory since the start of the war." Shisui blinked. The teacher doesn't seem to be very happy. It's because of White Fang. Speaking of the back, Shisui stopped in time, fearing that his words would affect Wuhan's mood. "It's nothing, even if he is still there, I have this attitude," Wuhan wrote lightly. That's the truth. Konoha wins or loses, nothing to Wuhan himself. He was only happy to get Conquerors and to increase Garp's progress value to more than 50%. It has nothing to do with Konoha victory. Teacher, the next step is Shisui asked for instructions again. You drafted a good news to the third-generation old man, to inform him that this is basically done. Now that the land of the country is tight, 80% will draw more than half of its troops to reinforcements. Wu-En analyzed. I spent almost a year in the barracks, but I didn't want to learn, and I almost understood it. 2 days later, a ninja eagle landed on the window of Konoha's intelligence department. A Chunin of the intelligence department took out the secret letter on the feet of N.A.N and found that it was the first line of news from the front line. Send it to Sarutobi Hiruzen as quickly as possible. Currently guarded by Konoha, in addition to Sarutobi Hiruzen's other cage-level powerhouse, Jiraiya is still in Hokage's office. Discuss the next strategic deployment. Master Hokage. This is the latest news from the Thunder Country battlefield. The intelligence department Chunin hurried to the office and shouted. Sarutobi Hiruzen's face changed, and he opened it quickly. When seeing the above content, Sarutobi Hiruzen was completely stunned, unable to return to God for a long time. Master, what did it say? Seeing Sarutobi Hiruzen's face, Jiraiya couldn't help asking. Sarutobi Hiruzen took a deep breath, calmed himself down, and said, Third Raikage is dead. As soon as this remark came out, Jiraiya in the office, as well as the other two top members of the Elders group, Yuditen Koharu and Mito Homura, were all surprised. Third Raikage is dead? The strongest Raikage, who stood at the peak of cage level and even White Fang and Sarutobi Hiruzen were not sure to defeat, died. Who did it? Yuditen Koharu asked with a trembling voice. Now White Fang is dead, and now has the ability to kill Third Raikage on the battlefield of Thunder Country. Who else do you think? Sarutobi Hiruzen asked rhetorically. Jiraiya took a breath, and a figure appeared in his mind. That kid. Sarutobi Hiruzen also took a pipe and sighed. White Fang fought, but I didn't expect a new Konoha's White Fang tooth was born. It seems that God is also on Konoha's side. The military order against Wu-En was quickly issued. As expected by Wu-En, Sarutobi Hiruzen decided to extract 2/3 of his military power including Wu-En and Uchiha Shisui, dispatched to the battlefield of the land where the front is tight now. The remaining 1/3 of the combat power remained in the northern border zone of the Country of Fire. Although it feels impossible, it is still necessary to prevent the group of lunatics from Cloud Shinobi from making a comeback. In the letter, Wu-En's contribution seemed to be praised, but Wu-En himself did not fluctuate in his heart. To be honest, Wu-En still cares a lot. How could Konoha, who owns Orochimaru, Tsunade, and Namikaze Minato, 3 cage-level masters, fail in the hands of Rock Shinobi? He even lost a White Fang. Is it really the Konoha Pot King from Danzo? At this moment, 49-0 in the northern part of the Country of Fire is in an underground cave near the Country of Earth. Obito, whose body has been transplanted with Hashirama cells on the right, is already lying on the stone slab and sleeping. Master Madara, Third Raikage, has been killed. Although that kid has no blood limit, I think you still need to guard against him in your plan. White Zetsu slowly emerged from the rock wall behind him, and said to the elderly Madara, who was sitting on a deadwood chair. At the age of 13, he had the ability to kill the peak of cage level. It is really extraordinary. Unfortunately, he does not have the blood of Uchiha or Uzumaki, otherwise I will let him replace Nagato or Obito. Madara whispered to herself. There was a hint of compliment in his tone. Can Uchiha Madara express this kind of tone in the entire ninja world? I am afraid that it is not a good idea. After thinking for a while, Madara decided, in that case, take out the hidden hole card. Wu-En does not know his active performance in the northeast battlefield, and has been listed as a key observation object by Uchiha Madara. As he led the army to move the battlefield of the Kingdom of Earth, the news of his killing of Third Raikage also spread like wildfire in the world of ninja. Strongest Raikage, killed by a 13-year-old kid. The whole ninja world was in an uproar. While shocked, everyone secretly sighed that Konoha was really the cradle of genius. A White Fang just died, and a genius of civilian origin was born. The strongest ninja body art. This title is gradually being held on Wu-En's head by more and more people. Physical skills and singles are definitely Wu-En's strongest. This sentence will also be used by more and more people when people mention Wu-En in the Third Ninja War in the future. When Wu-En knew about this, his face was full of black lines. I am obviously Hero Garp. How does the title and description sound more like Kaido Kaido? After nearly 5 days, everyone finally came to a small village in the northwestern part of the Country of Fire and bordering on the Country of Earth. The Konoha army led by Orochimaru is located here. The arrival of reinforcements naturally injected a booster to the army whose morale was in a downturn. Nowadays, Wu-En, who is known as the strongest in ninja physique, has also become the subject of discussion for many Konoha shinobi. Led by a Jonin, Wu-En walked towards the combat headquarters. It is said that this was an orphanage before. Since the war broke out, the residents and children who originally lived here have been transferred, and then the ninjas have moved here. On the way, what Wooen didn't expect was that he met Kakashi and N.A.N and dozens of young ninjas with an average age of under 15. In stall, Yunlin took the initiative to wave her hand to say hello to Wooen, glancing at Kakashi, who bowed his head gloomily. Wooen walked up. You see, Rin-no-Hara bowed to Wooen and said in gratitude, "Thank you, because the reinforcements you led have arrived." So Tsunade-sama decided to send all ninjas under 15 years old to Konoha. Glancing at Kakashi, who has been silent since just now, Wooen didn't say much. After all, from his point of view, the death of his best friend and father one after another was not a light blow. Lin, after returning to Konoha, you should not leave the village until the end of the Ninja World War, Wooen said. All he can do is just such a reminder. Rin-no-Hara blinked in confusion, then smiled and nodded. Thank you, then we will leave. With that said, Rin-no-Hara pulled Kakashi, who seemed to be out of her body, and returned to Konoha with the other Konoha young ninjas. Soon, under the leadership of that Jonin, Wooen came to the house, although not luxurious, but not small in size. Orochimaru, Tsunade, Namikaze Minato. 3 cage-level ninjas have been waiting here for a long time. Bad boy, come so late. Tsunade smiled and stood on his toes slightly and hooked Wooen's neck. As expected, it is N.A.N, who actually solved third raikage. Namikaze Minato exclaimed, and then touched his nose embarrassedly. It's not like me, even disciples. At this point, Namikaze Minato looked sad, apparently blamed himself for Obito's affairs. I didn't expect that physique can be cultivated to such a realm, which is really curious. Orochimaru added the corner of his lower lip with a more gloomy temperament than before. Get out of Tsunade's hands. Wooen chuckled. I heard that Rock Shinobi was the one who crippled Asuma. Presumably the third-generation old man is urging this battlefield too tightly, right? Orochimaru sneered coldly, as if disdainfully said, after all, he is just a person, and there will be such emotions, but this time the loss is so great, presumably after the war is over, this Hokage position will not be able to continue. White Fang is dead, and Konoha's loss is huge. To be honest, if the Hokage position of Sarutobi Hiruzen can still sit down after the third ninja battle, the possibility is really unlikely. Wooen raised his brows and asked with interest, oh? Who will do the next generation of Hokage? Tsunade, I think you are very suitable for 3.3. With that, Wooen cast his gaze towards Tsunade. From a personal point of view, if Tsunade is a Hokage, Wooen's life is definitely the most comfortable. Me? I don't want to do such troublesome work. Why don't you just gamble on 2 if you have that time? Although I am not disgusted with Hokage's position, Tsunade still tends to know in his heart. Haha, Mr. Sarutobi is now more interested in ninjas who were born in civilians, and it is unlikely that you were born in Senju. Orochimaru smiled strangely. Everyone, let's discuss the Occupy War first, right? Namikaze Minato was ashamed. Master Third Hokage is still in place, so he will openly discuss the matter of the new Hokage. This is disrespectful. Although these 3 people don't have much respect for Sarutobi Hiruzen, temporarily put an end to the sensitive topic of who will inherit the next generation of Hokage. Return to the battlefield. All in all, the previous major failures, including the death of White Fang, were due to information leaks, Orochimaru said coldly. Like Wooen, although he doesn't care how much Konoha will lose, he is actually upset by being stabbed repeatedly under his leadership. Who knows this kind of top-level classified information? Unlike Garp, who likes to doze off at meetings, Wooen asked with interest. Except for the 3 of us present, the dead White Fang counts as 1. Apart from Jiraiya, who is guarding the village, there are only the 3 of Hokage Sarutobi teacher and the elders. Orochimaru said hoarsely. Wow Ming, isn't that clear at a glance? Wooen said with a laugh. Namikaze Minato's eyes twitched again. N.A.N, it's better not to say this kind of words openly. In fact, he suspects Shinmura Danzo in his heart, but politics is really too sensitive. 23 Only a person like Wooen who doesn't mind his identity standpoint dares to speak so plainly. In layman's terms, he is a little heartless. Can't say that, after all, the old man Danzo is still standing in Konoha, and he won't mess Konoha so badly for his status. Orochimaru raised objections. It's not because he and Danzo have some cooperation secretly, but to tell the truth. Although Danzo is a lot of old immortal and demon, but it is not as frantic as the original Shippuden period. The reason why he was crazy in the later stage was because if Tsunade abdicated, Konoha could basically be controlled by him. But now, Sunan, Namikaze Minato are all there. No matter how he ranked Danzo, he's not so good yet. That old monster's topic will end here. What we need to do now is to find a way to deal with another old monster. Tsunade shouted. Oh Nogi? It is indeed a difficult old monster to deal with. Orochimaru propped one hand on the map and said, I'm not very optimistic. After the sacrifice of White Fang, although your troops have come to reinforce them, but the total strength of the opponent is higher than half of ours. At this time, to be honest, I think it is more appropriate to find teacher Sarutobi and ask for another reinforcement. Master Orochimaru, now the village has to guard against the attacks that Sand Shinobi and Mist Shinobi may launch at any time. I don't think Konoha can draw more people. Namikaze Minato interface. Although I don't know what the method is, the other party has also figured out Konoha's intelligence, and what is left is only frontal combat, right? Wooin chuckled lightly. Orochimaru sneered at the corner of his mouth. I can't die anyway. Wooin Tan Xiao said. Haha, and Kun's acting style is really maverick. Orochimaru sneered even more on his face. Looking at the two people, one heartless and the other cold-hearted, Namikaze Minato couldn't help but twitch at the corner of his eyes. Is that why geniuses have quirks? The situation is not optimistic, but now Konoha can only bite the bullet and fight. This is the only way. You kid, the habit of talking should have been taken care of long ago. Even if you are at home, if you are so unobstructed in front of outsiders, you will get into trouble sooner or later. As a cage-level master, Tsunade naturally has its own independent tent. As soon as Wooin came in, she said angrily. Today Wooin has repeatedly spoken harshly to Danzo and even Sarutobi Hiruzen. Although she was very relieved, she also worried about Wooin's safety. It is already a big draw for him to reach his current level at his current age. If you add in your lack of silence, you still don't know how many things will be caused. Wooin showed White Fang, made a symbolic smile of the Monkey D family, sat next to Tsunade, and said, "What's the point of living like this? If anyone dares to do anything to us, I will beat him to death." Hearing the word "we," Tsunade's heart trembled, and then he lost his breath. Fist can't solve everything. No, a fist can solve everything. As soon as Tsunade said this, Wooin immediately retorted, leaving her speechless. And unconsciously, the distance between the two is getting closer and closer, and the tips of their noses are even close to each other. However, the content of Tsunade's Xiao Lu Bei, who has been seen in previous lives, is different. Tsunade didn't slowly close his eyes, but suddenly shrank back, a little embarrassed, and said, "Bad boy, it's too close." Wooin smiled faintly, and suddenly grabbed Tsunade's bare hands. After her body trembled, her face was as old as she said, "Seriously, I really hope you will take over the position of the old man Sarutobi. Anyway, after this ninja world war, his face the location must not be kept." I said, "I don't want to do such a troublesome errand." Tsunade frowned slightly when he heard the words. The village was originally built by your grandfather. How prosperous Konoha was at that time. Who would dare to offend the other four great nations? Now it's been made like this. Those four old men and old women don't deserve to sit in that position a long time ago. As he said, Wooin put his hands on Tsunade's incensed shoulders and said with a small smile, "As long as you want, I will definitely help you." Tsunade didn't realize that he had been taken advantage of unknowingly, and suddenly doubted, your kid usually doesn't care about the outside world at all. Why is 490 so concerned about Hokage's position? Hey, Sarutobi Hiruzen and Danzo old guys mess up Konoha, I don't care, but if you become Hokage, I can have a better life, right? Wooin laughed. He is not afraid that Danzo will use his own tricks, but it doesn't mean he will not fight back. What's more, Konoha is very comfortable living in this fertile soil. Instead of letting Sarutobi Hiruzen group clamoring for will of fire and for the village all day long, these elderly repeaters are in charge. Why don't you let your own woman master be in your hands? You still have interest in cooperating with your kid. I thought you had no desires and desires. Tsunade Nuzui said. But there are also reasons for you. Wooin Kaido. Tsunade shook his shoulders severely, and said coldly, "Say these love words to the little girl Wyan Hong, they are useless to me." What about it? Wooin gave a funny laugh, and directly put the bloody Jiao dried Lu into his arms. After that, nothing further happened. Or it should be said that Tsunade is currently unable to experience further flight behavior. If she forced it down like this, she would probably give Wooin a punch. Don't ask how I knew it, but Wooin is not in a hurry, just take it easy. Because the intelligence is already in a situation where it may be taken by Rock Shinobi Master at any time. Orochimaru, as the commander-in-chief of the front line, also completely gave up the idea of fighting raids and intelligence warfare. Konoha can't stand the heavier loss, and without a word, just do it. Therefore, on the 5th day after Wooin led the troops to the battlefield of the Kingdom of Soil, headed by 3rd Tsuchikage Oniki, the rock shinobi of this period is also extremely powerful. Not to mention that Onogi himself is old and strong, and there are also 4 tails Jinchuriki Lao Zi and 5 tails Jinchuriki Han who have not defected in the village. Although they don't have the perfect control of the tail beasts in the body like the killer bee of Cloud Shinobi Village in the future, they dare not make complete tail beasts at will, but it can also freely use a considerable part of the power of the tail beast. The strength is also a proper cage level. And when Rock Shinobi's army approached, Onogi, who was floating in the air, frowned. Because he found that at the forefront of Konoha's army, a kid who was no more than 14 years old stood at the forefront, and the large army led by Orochimaru was arranged about half a mile later. Seeing the opponent's appearance clearly, Oniki condensed chakra into the throat and shouted, "Hey, boy! You are the one who killed Third Raikage and is now known as the Wuan who is known as the ninjutsu's strongest, right? Wuan did not answer Oyemyu's question, but pointed to Oyemyu's big nose and asked, I heard Tsunade and the others say that it was the dust of your Oyemyu who killed White Fang, right? Wuan, who was 2 generations younger than Wuan, was at a loss for his own problems, and Oyemyu was really upset. But after hearing what the other party said, Oniki couldn't help but cock the corners of his mouth slightly. Yes, it's the old man. Konoha's White Fang, who was able to kill the cage-level peak, could almost be said to be the top 5 strong at the time. Even if it was killed by a supplementary knife, he still has enough capital to do it himself. Then I will make a preview. Wuan still held the posture of pointing to Oyemyu, and the corners of his mouth were slightly upturned. You will die in this war, you will die in my hands, let's be more direct, you must die. Smelly boy. The blue veins in the temple of Onoki are violent, but he is an old man anyway, and it is not so simple that he is irritated and loses his mind because of the words of a junior. This kid standing in such a front position alone can never be just for molesting. Han, go and test it. Seeing Konoha's weird formation, Onoki immediately felt that there was a problem, so he didn't take the risk to let the army rush forward. Instead, they sent Rock Shinobi's cage-level masters to attack as the Han of 5 Tails Jinchuriki. Wuan raised his eyebrows when he saw this. Oh? He didn't take the initiative to approach. It's different from Cloud Shinobi's idiots. At the moment when the voice fell, Wuan showed another ill-intentioned smile. Unfortunately it's useless. Whoosh. For an instant, Namikaze Minato appeared beside Wuan with a right hand on his shoulder. The left hand suddenly threw a special 3-pointed flying thunder god kunao. Too fast. Han couldn't get close at all. In an instant, Wuan and Namikaze Minato teleported over the Rock Shinobi army. Puff. Wuan fell heavily in the center of Rock Shinobi's army. Oyemyu suddenly turned his head, frowning his eyebrows. What does this kid want to do? Take the initiative to run into the enemy center and look for death, don't you? A dangerous smile appeared on Wuan's face, and he peeked out with both hands. The vastness of the sea spread out from the body. In an instant, hundreds of Rock Shinobi ninjas below Chunin's elite level all fell. N.A.N, Oniki, Lao Zi, and others were dumbfounded in surprise. In the Konoha army on the opposite side, the Konoha shinobi who saw this trick for the first time was also stunned. Shisui also has a lot of Konoha shinobi who Wuan brought and shouted with admiration appeared. Master Wuan's conquerors. As long as there is this trick, the difference in the number of people is nothing at all. Now you know how powerful it is? Oh Yemyu. As Mr. Wuan said, you are dead in this war. Ha ha ha. Orikimura quickly returned to God, added the corner of his mouth with the head, and muttered to himself in a low voice, and Kun, you are really getting me more and more interested. Ha ha ha. The next moment, Orikimura raised his hand with a wave, and the morale of Konoha's army attacked across the board. At the same time, Wuan on the opposite side raised his right fist and slammed it towards the ground. Boom! Like the impact of a meteorite falling, it smashed the earth to pieces. At the same time, those Rock Shinobi ninjas who had fainted because of conquerors were shot down into the sky. In the sky above, Namikaze Minato threw out an unknown number of flying thunder god kunao, turned into a veritable golden glitter, gorgeous and swiftly harvesting the lives of those Rock Shinobi ninjas that were shot into the sky. Damn it! Stop the golden glitter! Old purple. Oyemyu gritted his teeth and whispered. Lao Zi Lang looked at Oyemyu with caution. To be honest, at this time, he and Oyemyu have had a lot of disagreements in their ideas. But even so, he chose to obey the order. Lava-style burning river rock technique, spit out several stone balls bursting with magma. Not only can he use Four Tails lava style, he is also a ninja of lava style. It can be said that it is a perfect match with Four Tails. However, this kind of attack has nothing to do with Namikaze Minato, or, this kind of attack, it is impossible to defeat the Golden Flash army. After being easily avoided, Lao Zi folded his hands again, and his whole body entered a state of elementalization like Akainu, lava-style chakra mode. After entering this state, Lao Zi's speed has obviously increased by more than a bit, and his body exudes a breathtaking temperature, rushing towards Namikaze Minato. You forgot about this. Suddenly, Wu En's voice came. Lao Zi was taken aback and looked down, only to see Wu En directly lift up the magma stone ball that was spit out by Namikaze Minato just now, and threw it towards him with a faster and terrifying force. Whoosh dash. The stone balls bursting with hot lava were thrown by Wu En one by one towards Lao Zi and the Rock Shinobi army behind him. Rock Shinobi's army quickly used their best Earth-style ninjutsu for defense, but compared to Lao Zi, who was thrown by Wu En, the terrifying impact was even better than before. Many people did not have time to defend and were hit directly. After entering lava-style chakra mode, Lao Zi dodges, can't help but frown secretly, thinking, how is it possible? How could someone pick it up by hand live in magma with a temperature above 1000? Looking closely, Lao Zi found that Wu En's hands had turned pure black. Even if it was eroded by his own magma, it did not hurt his hands. Is that his secret technique? Old Zi said inwardly. However, at this moment, a golden light flashed in front of Lao Zi's eyes. Namikaze Minato had already come, too fast. Golden glitter. Raise N.A.N. Raise N.A.N. in the palm of your hand, cover your face. Huagyuashin. Lao Zi greeted him with a punch. Earth-style rock golem. Oniki floating in the air suddenly became imprinted, and the flying rock directly under his body condensed into a rock giant 10 meters high. Immediately afterwards, a roar like 490 roared from his mouth, and he covered Wuan with his head. This kind of toy, take it home to coax your granddaughter, although I don't think you still have a life to go back. Wuan sneered and punched in the face. Such a huge difference in body size is like a mouse trying to fight an adult. Boom! As a result, naturally the rock giant was beaten to pieces. Wuan didn't even use the armed color, so his body was splashed to pieces. However, between the cracked rocks, Onogi has completed a new knot seal, and the palms of the opposite hands are emitting spherical white light. Ono Macheo. Wuan sneered, boy, I was not naive from the beginning to think that kind of move can kill you. The next moment, Oyemu suddenly faced Wuan with his palms, and the white light turned into a beam of light and shot. Dust escape original world stripping technique. That was the trick to kill Lord White Fang. Someone in Konoha's army exclaimed. Whoosh! Wuan's body disappeared in the same place in an instant, and the white light hit the ground, instantly eradicating that piece of land. As expected, it is a trick that can squeeze out Susanoo, and it requires guard to deal with it, which is almost equal to a one-shot trick. The disadvantage is that the chakra consumed is too large. Slow tricks, do you think it hit me? Old man. Wuan's body is treading continuously in mid-air. It is moonwalk, one of Marine 6 styles. Stepping on the air, is this also a type of ninjutsu? Anamu frowned. A 13-year-old kid could do this. He just said that he would take his own life in this war and kill third Reikage, known as the strong Reikage, which is really not a rhetoric. Earth-style light and heavy rock technique. Earth-style heavy rock technique. The combined ninjutsu of lightning and weighting objects reduces the surrounding rocks, making them float in the air, and then weighting them into a salvo of shotgun-like shells. Wuan smiled contemptuously and directly hit Tempest Kick to sweep away, and he was about to cut off the side of a hill comparable to a basketball court. Then he hugged him and threw it towards Oniki. To throw a stone, at least to this level. The old age is not dead because of backache. Boom! Although there is no blessing of ninjutsu, relying on the advantages of size, all the stones launched by Onoki are directly suppressed. However, Oniki did not evade, but directly greeted him, putting his hands on the huge rock that was comparable to a basketball court. Earth-style super light heavy rock technique. Earth-style super aggravated rock technique. The same trick, but this time increases the output. With greater strength, the giant rock returned and rushed towards Wu-An Hum-Dash. Wuan's right fist is plated in the color of the arm. Positive, iron fist. Wow! The huge rock immediately turned into countless rubble under the fist, and fell like a torrential rain. However, Onoki, opposite the original itself, disappeared. At this moment, Tsunade below was surprised when he saw this and hurriedly shouted, behind. About 5 meters behind Wuan, a piece of rock is slowly turning into a big wild wood. Earth-style shadow clone. Actually disguised himself as a sneak attack among the rocks. Really old and cunning. This time your kid is done. At such a close distance, Oniki is quite confident. The corners of the mouth under the big nose couldn't help but turn up, and the middle of the two opposing hands exudes white light again. Dust escape original realm stripping technique. Oyemu shouted. This kind of close range, unless you have the hollow spacetime ability of Obito, even if you reach cage level, it is difficult to escape. The appearance of a cube-shaped silver light square is exactly Chen Yun. In the eyes of bystanders such as Tsunade, it seems that Wuan has been transformed into a molecule under that trick. Wuan, Tsunade screamed subconsciously. Many Konoha shinobi people even couldn't believe it. Wuan is dead? You can go to that world to accompany White Fang. Oniki sneered. It is you who asked to accompany White Fang. The sound like a death knell in hell rose from behind his ears. Not waiting for Oniki to turn around, the whip kick hit his waist, causing him to fall to a rock on the ground like a football, shattering the rock. Dad! Oyemu's son Huang Tu exclaimed. Looking at Wuan in midair again, his whole body and skin were congested and red, and his expression was extremely clean and hideous compared to normal daily. Shisui, who was familiar with Wuan, subconsciously yelled, Ju, actually opened the third gate in one breath. Really worthy of the teacher. Although most of them really can't escape, but Wuan, who has a speed beyond cage level, can do it after opening 8 inner gates. It just opened the third gate in an instant, and the impact was too great. The energy consumed is not inferior to driving to the 5th gate one by one. Woolen cloth as predicted. In general, Wuan, who was absolutely able to chase after victory, fell to the ground at this time. Can't help but tensed his right calf. Damn it, the third gate opened for a moment, and the muscles twitched a little. It hurts. Damn it, my waist. At the end of the first round, the Rock Shinobi army returned to its own operations. Oniki, who was being treated by a medical ninja, couldn't help but scream. The kick of Wooin just now was really cruel. What's more, his body is not as tough as Sarutobi Hiruzen. Since he returned to the barracks, it has been painful until now. The first round of confrontation, the two sides are considered to be in contact with each other. Although Konoha already has 4 cage-level masters, Wooin, Orochimaru, Tsunade, and Namikaze Minato, but Rock Shinobi also has Onoki himself, and 2 Jinchuriki who can use the power of the Tail Beast. What's more, Rock Shinobi still has an overwhelming advantage in total strength. Therefore, Onoki is not too worried. But today, the whole day passed, and the informant hadn't arrived yet, so Ohaime frowned twice. On the other side, Konoha's barracks. Wooin is also receiving Tsunade treatment. I only wore a pair of sports shorts all over my body. Because of the third gate, there were more or less muscle strains all over my body. That's why I received Tsunade's treatment in this shape. I'm lying on the bed in the Tsunade tent. Wooin snorted softly when Tsunade's bare hands exuding healing ninjutsu chakra touched his skin. Hey, don't make such a disgusting sound, okay? I don't know what I thought I did to you. Tsunade was full of black lines, and he couldn't wait to slap this kid twice. But these strong muscles and abdominal muscles are compared with the stinky kid who was screwed up in the rotisserie 7 years ago. It is indeed very different. Checking Wooin's whole body up and down to one side, Tsunade retracted his hand and patted him before his moon. Get me up and dress. Anyway, the weather is so hot, so you don't have to be so anxious, right? Wooin asked amusedly. Fart. It's the end of the year now. Go out if you want to, don't get in the way of my eyes here. Tsunade turned his head to the other side and sorted out the medical equipment. Until I felt a pair of books enveloping my slender waist from behind. Tsunade's tone was 5 points of anger, 5 points of helplessness. Konoha and Rock Shinobi temporarily entered a head-to-head battle. According to Orochimaru's experience, if this war is not interfered by other external forces, this tough battle will probably last for about 2 years. Of course, food, politics, logistics and other factors have not been involved. After all, the battlefield is changing rapidly, and there may be accidents tomorrow. And just about 2 months later, Konoha's 46th year was finally ushered in. The long-awaited informant Onoki finally appeared. The visitor wore a black robe, and the white mask under his kabuto hat could be vaguely seen. It is the same as the Uzumaki mask worn by Obito in the future under the name Uchiha Madara. However, he is not Obito, but the special white zetsu cultivated by Uchiha Madara. In the future, he leaned over Obito, making Obito's power grow rapidly. On the back mountain about 2 miles away from Rock Shinobi Barracks, Onoki gathered here with his son Wang-Tu and several other confidants in each other. Immediately some can't wait to ask, is there any information? That's right, since the Third Ninja World War, Konoha has repeatedly leaked war secrets really have nothing to do with Danzo. They were all leaked to Rock Shinobi by White Zetsu under the order of Uchiha Madara. For his own plan, Uchiha Madara must balance the war situation and cannot end the war early. He had to let Obito see this desperate world. At first, Onoki naturally didn't believe the other party. But after a few times, I found that what the other party actually said was the truth. He even used the information brought by the other party to kill Konoha's White Fang. After that, Onoki basically believed in the information that White Zetsu had brought. It's a pity that Danzo is the king of the Black Pot. He was obviously not responsible for the matter, but whether it was Wooin, Tsunade, or Namikaze Minato, they suspected him a long time ago. It can only be said that too many bad things have been done, and it is no wonder that if something happens again, the first person to doubt is you. Just like the story of The Wolf is Coming. Uzumaki's face White Zetsu said with that funny voice, it's useless, now Konoha has decided to give you Rock Shinobi head-on, and there is no special information. However, San Shinobi has now elected a new 4th Kaze cage, you might as well try. After speaking, Uzumaki's face White Zetsu gradually disappeared to the ground. Wang-Tu said to Dayemu who was standing in front of him, Father, what shall we do now? Onoki thought for a while, and said, Wang-Tu, you, as my Uegakur messenger, take my handwritten letter to San Shinobi. Yes, and at almost the same time, I heard that San Shinobi, an ally, had elected a new Wind Shadow. After careful consideration, Sarutobi Hiruzen decided to send his disciple Jiraiya as an envoy to Tsunagakur. The purpose of these two shadows is obvious. One is to persuade San Shinobi to betray Konoha and join forces to attack Konoha. The other is to ask San Shinobi to reinforce Konoha and join forces to attack Rock Shinobi. Night. Obito, who has lived in the grotto where Madara is located for several months, has long hair. Today, he is excited about the upcoming repetition every day. At this moment, he was falling into sleep with the wretched smile of a young boy carrying Chun, calling the name Lin, and Uzumaki's face White Zetsu came out of the mud at this time, and said, Madara-sama, Konoha and Rock Shinobi have all sent envoys to San Shinobi, and Konoha's Jiraiya is one step ahead. How's Sand Shinobi's attitude? Madara asked lightly. For Kazekage Luosha prefers to stand on Konoha's side. After all, the two sides are still allies, and during the Second Ninja War, Sand Shinobi and Rock Shinobi had a little friction. Madara heard the words, nodded in satisfaction, and said indifferently, very well, everything is as planned, as long as they wait until they start the war, take out the whole card, and let Obito see what despair is. Fourth Kazekage Luosha summoned Jiraiya from Konoha and Huangshi from Rock Shinobi. I also know that I, Sand Shinobi, must stand firm in this ninja world war. After intense discussions at the upper level of Sand Shinobi, Luosha chose to reinforce Konoha in the end. Because of the Second Ninja War battle, Sand Shinobi and Rock Shinobi had a little friction. What's more, N.A.N. and Konoha are still allies. Open betrayal is tantamount to reducing Sand Shinobi's reputation to the bottom. For N.A.N., an individual existence that only represents an individual, he certainly does not have to worry about fame, face, and the like. But for a Shinobu village and a country, face is extremely important. Once this is gone, no matter what you do, it will be very troublesome. For example, in the Ninja World War, if you become a target of 490, who would dare to help you? When helping you, don't you worry about being beaten by the barrel? Out of various considerations like these, Luosha chose to reinforce Konoha and sent a large army to attack Rock Shinobi from the west. As a result, Rock Shinobi's pressure is greater. They have to deal with Konoha and Sand Shinobi at the same time. Fortunately, Sand Shinobi has no masters. Cho has retired, and their Jinchuriki is facing the cage-level powerhouse that can be easily replaced by Rasha. Therefore, Rock Shinobi is not going to lose. But the pressure is absolutely unprecedented. With the idea of killing you while you are sick, Sarutobi Hiruzen directly ordered Jiraiya to go to the battlefield of the country of soil to support Orochimaru and the others. Solve Rock Shinobi as soon as possible. The border of the land of the earth in March still exudes bursts of coolness. Early in the morning, Jiraiya came to the barracks with only a small group of troops. Meanwhile, Orochimaru, Tsunade, and his disciple Namikaze Minato were already waiting for him at the entrance of the barracks. After a few words of greeting, Jiraiya suddenly remembered something and asked, "What about N.A.N., isn't he there?" Still sleeping. That guy, who has been training so diligently in Konoha, has become lazy when he comes to the battlefield. Tsunade didn't let out a good anger, and walked to the side of the camp, and said, "I'll call him, you guys talk first." This kid, my Grand Toad Sage came, but I didn't greet him immediately. Jiraiya was just joking, and didn't really care about this. But immediately, he suddenly remembered another key, and asked Orochimaru and Namikaze Minato, "Wait, why is Tsunade calling?" Because that kid is sleeping in a tent with Tsunade now. Kaido, who Orochimaru didn't care about, turned and walked forward. "Come here, let's discuss the next battle plan." And Jiraiya, frozen in place like petrification, muttered in a dying tone, sleep for a while? Then, that Tsunade is actually willing, why, how could it? Speaking of the back, Jiraiya's tone was already a little bit crying, and Namikaze Minato felt that his teacher was about to cry in the next second. But I didn't know what to say, so I changed the subject with a wry smile. Then, that teacher, let's go quickly, of course one can't really sleep on the same floor with Tsunade. But it was only about 1 meter apart, which was unbelievable for Jiraiya. Looking at N.A.N. covered with a thin quilt and only a pair of sports shorts, Tsunade's pretty face, which has never been half old, still couldn't help but flashed an unnatural blush, and his little foot hit his shoulder, and he didn't have a good air. "Get up. Jiraiya is here." N.A.N. rubbed his eyes and opened the quilt, accidentally glanced at the burly Tsunade underneath, and walked out quickly with an angry and red face, and shouted in shame, "Hurry up, only less than 2 months." Under Sand Shinobi and Konoha's two-way attack, Rock Shinobi couldn't bear it. Fortunately, the country of the earth, as a major mineral country with the economic strength of the 5 powers second only to the country of fire, will not be a big problem for another year or a half. But just being able to survive it is still far from enough. Must find a way to win. And just when Oyemu was feeling distressed, his son Wang Tu rushed into the camp with a look of ecstasy and shouted to Oyemu, "Dad, good news! Good news!" Onomo raised his brows. "What good news?" Surprised. Wang Tu took a few deep breaths in a row before suppressing the excitement in his heart, but still said with joy, "Just now the Ministry of Intelligence sent a message that 3rd Mizukage of Kirigakure suddenly led 3,000 ninja army headed by the 7 ninja swords, crossed the sea, and occupied the ruins of the country of Uzumaki in one breath, and is now aggressively attacking the country of fire. The southern zone." What? Onoki jumped up from his seat fiercely, with the same expression of ecstasy, and couldn't help but laughed. God helped me, Rock Shinobi. Miss Shinobi, the group of turtles with their heads across the sea did not expect this. It's time to actually do it. With that said, Onoki took a photo of the tabletop excitedly and shouted, "Okay, pass my order, pay close attention to Konoha's movements, seize the opportunity, and attack them continuously." "Yes," Lois responded enthusiastically. In stark contrast to the ecstatic rock shinobi, Konoha is naturally. At this time, there was a dead silence in the barracks. Wooin, Tsunade, Orochimaru, Jiraiya, Namikaze Minato all gathered here. An Umbu ninja arrived at the fastest speed of 3.3 and gave the order of 3rd Hokage, Master Orochimaru. Master Hokage ordered to order Master Jiraiya, Master Namikaze Minato, and immediately led 1,000 people to the southern part of the Country of Fire to deal with the Mist Shinobi army. 1,000 people will be taken away. Even Orochimaru couldn't help but frowned. The Umbu said bitterly, the situation is very urgent. Even Genin, who was more experienced in the village, was dispatched to resist. There is no time now, I will leave it to you, Minato, we will leave immediately. Jiraiya also said anxiously to Namikaze Minato, his teacher. Namikaze Minato said that he was about to leave with Jiraiya for the southern battlefield. Wooin said inwardly, this must be Madara's ghost. At the end of the Third Ninja War, Kirigakur did intervene. In front, N.A.N. was taken into captivity to seal 3 tails, and in the back, the 3 of Might Guy encountered the 7 ninja swords, and Might Guy opened the dead door to rescue. Whether the latter was made by Madara, Wooin is not sure, but he did make the former. And this time, Mist Shinobi suddenly attacked Konoha, and in all likelihood, he couldn't get rid of this old guy. Might Guy, Kakashi, they are very likely to be in danger. It's not that Wooin never thought of going to the southern battlefield with Namikaze Minato to reinforce, but here again Sarutobi Hiruzen drew nearly half of the combat power away. Morale was also sluggish because of Mist Shinobi's sudden attack. Tsunade is also very dangerous. After some consideration, Wooin decided to protect Tsunade first. The best result is to get here as soon as possible before rushing to the southern battlefield. After all, Might Guy was the one who taught him 8 inner gates, and Wooin really didn't want him to die. Fortunately, Wooin asked 23 to Anko and Yurihong were not selected to be sent to the battlefield, because their strength and experience are still insufficient. This turned into a kind of luck. Jiraiya and Namikaze Minato led quite a number of ninja munitions rushing to the south. At dinner time, Tsunade walked into the tent with the rice soup accompanied by the meal, only to find that Wooin unexpectedly did not sit on the floor and think deeply. Actually training in the Hollow Realm, it's lying on the bunk with some dermabrasion. What's wrong? Worried about the situation in the south. Putting one of the plates aside, Tsunade leaned against Wu-An. If it weren't for worrying about you, I would also go together. Wooin took Tsunade's Xiangjian Lu to live, and directly pulled him into his arms. The first time Tsunade was treated so aggressively, Tsunade was surprised at first, and then wanted to break free, but found that Wooin's arm was tightly clasped and couldn't make it. He couldn't make it out, so he couldn't make it out, so he couldn't make it out. He could only say unhappy, who wants you to worry about? You think I'm weak. White Fang's strength is still higher than that of you. Isn't it the same to be pitted to death? I don't want you to follow in his footsteps. Loosen a little. Wooin looked at Tsunade. Tsunade shrugged and said nothing, and an ambiguity filled the air. Wooin's mouth slowly pressed against the yin seal on Tsunade's forehead. In an instant, I could feel Tsunade's coquettish face shaking. Moving down slightly, I felt Tsunade shaking more and more. It wasn't until the two were about to hand over, Tsunade seemed to come back to his senses, and quickly turned her pretty face slightly, so that Wooin's mouth should not be on the side of her mouth. Just, that's it. After leaving this sentence in a hurry, Tsunade turned around and ran away shyly. She couldn't believe how she could be with a guy who was younger than her brother if it weren't for waking up at the last minute, wouldn't it? Tsunade didn't dare to think about it anymore. Compared with Shirihong's obedience, Wooin felt that he had to record these tribulations. After the complete success in the future, let Tsunade compensate himself fiercely. 4 days later, Oniki finally learned through intelligence that Jiraiya and Namikaze Minato, the 2 masters and apprentices, led the 1,000 ninja army that had originally dealt with rock shinobi to the southern battlefield for reinforcements. The whole army was immediately ordered to attack. After a few months, this time he must win a battle and return. Rock shinobi is very vigorous. Orochimaru, standing in one of the foremost positions of Konoha's army, said coldly, Orochimaru, I still think we should adopt a defensive policy and wait until Sand Shinobi's victory is announced before counterattacking. Tsunade Willow frowned. It's useless, Tsunade, you look down on people's hearts too much. The battle between Sand Shinobi and Rock Shinobi didn't go all out at all. They knew that Rock Shinobi's main goal was Konoha. Will really smash Rock Shinobi for us. Orochimaru sneered, as if mocking Tsunade's innocence. Tsunade twitched her nose, unhappy with the mockery in Orochimaru's tone. No matter how powerful they are, as long as their shadows die on the battlefield, they will retreat because of the chaos, Wooin asked with a smile. Orochimaru and Tsunade looked at Wooin with interest and surprise, respectively. Oh, N.A.N., are you confident to kill the old monster Oyemu? It's not easy. Orochimaru smiled rather than smiled. Don't get smug just because you killed 3rd Raikage. I'm just stating the facts. This is definitely the most straightforward way to end the war. Wooin took a step and said, "Troublesome Orochimaru-senpai will help me create a space to fight Onoji. Don't let other people interfere." If it is a one-on-one without other people's interference, Wooin is more confident to kill Oyemu. But the battlefield was extremely chaotic, just as White Fang said. Once a cage-level ninja in a village is in danger, other people have to protect him regardless of their lives. In this way, the possibility of wanting to kill cage-level ninjas becomes extremely low. What's more, it's the leader of a village Tsuchikage. Orochimaru thought for a while, and said, "I can try to summon 10,000 snakes to resist getting in the way, but that guy is not very obedient. Try it, I think I'm still very good at dealing with animals." Wooin Kaido. Orochimaru glanced at him intently and said, "In this case, try it, Tsunade, you return." Tsunade's mission this time is not to fight on the front line, but to summon Katsuyu to treat the wounded as quickly as possible. After all, after 1,000 people were drawn out, the gap in military strength between the two sides was widened again. Almost the same time, Orochimaru at the front of the team and Tsunade at the back bit his fingers at the same time, quickly formed a seal, and pressed the palm of his right hand to the ground. Summoning technique, summoning technique. In an instant, accompanied by a burst of gunpowder, two giant summoning beasts comparable to tail beasts appeared one after the other in the Konoha shinobi army. "Orochimaru, what do you call me out for? Are these Konoha shinobi as food for me?" The 10,000 snakes who just appeared on the stage did not have the slightest respect, and stared at the Konoha shinobi below with extremely dangerous eyes, and the people who looked straight were chilled in their hearts. "Calling you out this time is for you to help," Orochimaru said lightly. "What? Didn't I tell you not to bother me if you have nothing good? Do you think I ate you? I suddenly want to eat grilled snake meat. How about satisfying my stomach like you sacrificed?" Wooin suddenly interjected and said with a harmonious smile. Hearing Wooin's words, one snake showed a humane uncomfortable color, and his huge body burst out with astonishing killing intent. "Boy, what did you just say?" Wooin touched the cold but extremely dry skin of 10,000 snakes, and smiled. "Such a large amount of snake meat, even me, is enough for 1 month, right? Boy, I think you don't want to live anymore." As he spoke, Wan Shi opened his mouth full of fangs, and wanted to swallow Wooin straight into his stomach. Boom dash. In the next instant, an invisible wave of air spread from Wooin's body. It's not the same as the state of being unable to control freely a year ago. The surrounding Konoha shinobi were not affected in any way. This conqueror seemed to be condensed into an invisible bow and arrow, pointing directly at 10,000 snakes. One snake's movements suddenly froze, staring at Wooin with dread. "Don't make trouble, bad snake." A dangerous smile appeared on Wooin's face. "Can you listen to people quietly now?" Wan Shi backed away half a step, but out of that arrogant self-esteem, he did not answer the word yes, but he also expressed his default with a hum. "It's really convenient inside," Orochimaru secretly said inwardly. Unlike Jiraiya and Tsunade, he summoned 10,000 snakes, because this beast is too disobedient. Somewhat similar to the future Uchiha Sasuke, with a bit of strength, I feel that God is the second child, who doesn't care about it. Orochimaru opened the mouth and said, "Many Snake, all you have to do is to help N.A.N and Ono Mutant challenge the fight, so as not to get in the way. Do you understand?" "Cut, it's numb, Before he finished speaking, Wan Shi let out a sharp pain. Looking down, I saw Wooin's punch hit his body by himself, drilling a hole of blood. With the size of 10,000 snakes, this point of damage is almost like AP*****K on a person's body with an embroidery needle. But the intense pain made Wan Shi not help shouting out. "It shows that Wooin's fist is huge. Understand? Bad snake," Wooin said with a smile spray. Wan Shi didn't have any extra answers, but if he didn't refuse, he already agreed. Behind the team, Katsuyu at Tsunade's feet couldn't believe it. "It's so amazing, someone can suppress the 10,000 snakes." Upon seeing this, Tsunade smiled slightly, his hands were sealed, and he whispered, "Ninfa, Katsuyu's great split technique." Next, the huge Katsuyu becomes countless little slugs and loses, climbs onto the Konoha shinobi, and provides them with the first treatment. "It's kind of disgusting." Seeing Katsuyu crawling on his shoulders, Shisui murmured inwardly, "Get ready, let's do it." Wooin jumped on top of Wan Shi's head and gave orders. Whoosh dash. One snake stuck to the ground and rushed out. He is well known for being able to compete with Toad Bunta and Katsuyu. Coupled with his physical advantage as a snake, he can quickly approach the enemy center. The lowest beside Onoki reminded, "Be careful. That's Orochimaru's summoning beast." The next moment, the rock shinobi ninja in the first row was in danger, and they performed the seal together. Earth-style yellow mud thorns, huge barbs burst out from the ground beneath the feet in an instant, turning the ground into a needle mountain. This move made Wooin couldn't help but think of Kimimiro's last move against Gaara. It's just that even if Rock Shinobi has nearly 100 people on display, it still doesn't have a large area that Kimimaro can release with all his strength. Puffing dash. One snake's head buckled down, and his huge body slid into the ground quickly. Seeing this, Huang Tu shouted immediately, "Turn the soil over and find him." The next moment, the rock shinobi ninja made seals again. Earth-style Earth core action. Half of the soil on the battlefield is like cooking in a pot, being overturned by a vegetable spatula. Suddenly, one snake rushed out of the mud and went straight to the big wildwood in the air. Ha! What can such a beast do? Even if he is big, he is just a target for nothing. Onaki scorned, his hands condensed the white light ball. Dust Tong primary realm stripping technique. By Guangzhou instantly pierced Wan Shi's body. Oh, the rock shinobi army below suddenly burst out with shocking cheers. However, after 2 seconds, their smiles were completely frozen on their faces. Staring at it, the body of the snake that was pierced by the dust turned into a huge snake skin, slowly falling off to the ground. It's a stand-in for snake skin. Bang! The earth was pierced into a big hole again. One snake rushed out from behind, and his huge body threw its tail with amazing power. In the next moment, it was as if a broom lifted up endless dust and cleared the rock shinobi army to the other side. Block them, Orochimaru gave the order in a cold voice. The Konoha shinobi who rushed turned around, and stood in front of the rock shinobi ninjas who landed like a copper wall and iron wall. Don't let them go half a step forward. And Wan also jumped from the top of Wan Shi's head just a moment ago, stood on the top of DMU with moonwalk volley, smiled and said, "I have come to fulfill my promise, DMU. A tactic that separates me from the army? It seems that you are bound to take my life this time." Onaki looked at each other coldly, but how long can this situation last? What's more, do you think the old man is so easy to be killed by you? May knows. Wuen's face smiled as it was. Third Reikage said the same a year ago, and now his body is probably all turned to ashes. I don't know how big the sky is. Onaki yelled furiously, folded his hands, and shouted Earth-style Earth Dragon Technique Army. The ground under his feet suddenly turned into a swamp, and formed a dragon to rush towards N.A.N. Wuen scorned his right index finger and middle finger, and pierced it 3 times at a speed that was hard to see with the naked eye. 3 flashes were drawn like a sharp razor, cut the earth dragon into several pieces in an instant, scattered on the ground, and filled the ground with mud. The first door, open the door. Rockeye enters the 8 inner gate state. This is really the first time for N.A.N. After all, Wuen himself does not think that Orochimaru can block the rock shinobi army, which is basically nearly double their total military strength. And once the opponent broke through the resistance of Konoha's army and came to reinforce Onaki, the chance of being able to get rid of the place was reduced to minimal. A quick fight, this is Wuen's only way. Second gate, open the door. The second door also opened, and Wuen disappeared into place in an instant. Upon seeing this, Onaki quickly folded his fingers and feet, and floated the floating rock on the surface of his body as a defensive shield. What can that kind of thing do? Wuen let out a sneer and suddenly flashed out. One kick has been kicked on the rock surrounding Onoki's body. Puffed. The rock is easily crushed like tofu. But fortunately, in the unfortunate situation, Onaki relied on his rich combat experience. At the moment Wuen kicked the stone that he used as a protective shield. Fei 490 evacuated in the opposite direction, pulling a distance of nearly 20 meters in one breath. The reason why Wuen tried his best to compete against Onoji was also because he was not good at heads-up. Dust escape, heavy rock technique, light heavy rock technique. These are all types of ninjutsu that play a major role in large-scale battles and group battles. If it is divided into 3 types, combat ninja, auxiliary ninja, and medical ninja, then Onoki is hovering between the fighting type and the auxiliary type. Against ordinary cage level and cage level opponents, he himself has no problem. However, there are problems with levels above cage level, and they basically can only be reduced to auxiliary. In the future, against Uchiha Madara, who is super cage level, the basic thing to do is to reinforce Gaara, reinforce 4th Reikage, and then boost morale. The only means of attack is to store Chakra's ultimatum. Therefore, apart from dust escape, Onoki's attack method is actually very single. Chen Dun is very strong and basically kills with one blow. But as long as there is a way to deal with Chen Dun, it becomes much easier to deal with him. Of course, the premise is in a heads-up situation. Damn it, I have no way to deal with him except dust escape. Onaki himself knew this problem. Generally speaking, the best way at this time is to fly away immediately and join the large forces. But what can't be done? As long as he dared to turn around and fly, Wuen would definitely catch up with Moonwalk and punch him in the back. The huge advantage of being able to fly is meaningless for N.A.N. All we can do now is to resist the opponent and wait for the reinforcements to arrive. Dust escape original realm stripping technique. It's finally here, Chen Yun. The blooming white beam of light rushed. But for Wuen, who is now able to surpass cage level and opening 8 inner gates, he heard that. The speed of this trick is not worth mentioning. After avoiding it for a moment, Wuen squeezed his iron fist and was about to fight back. Unexpectedly, Oyemi didn't take Chen Dun back in this way, but maintained this state, using Chen Dun to pursue Wuen continuously. Old man, do you think you are Senju Hashirama? With such continuous use of N.A.N, you can stand in a stalemate for a few minutes? No, I am afraid that you can't hold on for a few minutes, right? N.A.N sneered while evading the continuous attacks of dust escape like a afterimage. That's enough. Oniki let out a low voice, and continued to use N.A.N to pursue it continuously. But regardless of the composure on his face, the chakra burden caused by the continuous release of dust has already been brought out. It's not good, Lord Lois. Continuous use of dust escape is a huge burden to Master Tsuchikige's body. According to this situation, I am afraid that it will not last for 2 minutes. Being blocked outside, and Iwagakure Jonin next to Huang-tu said worriedly. I know, so we have to break through Kanaha's defense. Lois gritted his teeth. This type of N.A.N is really the nemesis of his father. What is more troublesome is to separate him from most of them and put Oniki in the most unfavorable situation. Condensed clay with his left hand, making his fist more than twice as large as before. Earth-style fist rock, small bugs, Tsunade yelled, and Subai's hand was clenched into a fist and he banged towards him like this. Weird power punch. The fists of both sides are about 3 times different in size. But after a stalemate for a second, it was the lowest that was beaten by Tsunade. Seeing this, Lao Zi raised his hand and grabbed the lowest that was about to fly out. Thank you, Senior Zi. Huang-tu immediately thanked him, and then looked at his left fist with lingering fear. The severe pain continued to come. Kanaha's Tsunade Haim is also a very strong physical ninja. Seeing Oyemu, who was obviously about to be unable to support chakra, Huang-tu frowned and gritted his teeth to Lao Zi. Old Zi, can you be completely beast? Can you help Dad? Old Zi's face was startled. It is completely tailed. You should know that I can't control 4 tails, right? Jinchuriki, who can't skillfully control the tail beasts, turns into tail beasts at will, but it is extremely serious. A careless person is very likely to be eaten back by the tail beast and take possession of the body. This is why Nine Tails kept bewitching Naruto to use his power in the early stage, just to be able to snatch control of Naruto's body and regain his freedom. And once it succeeds, what Jinchuriki faces is that the body and mind are completely occupied by the tail beast, and it is basically no different from death. Lao Zi can't even use tail beastization, let alone complete tail beastization. I was absolutely mad as soon as I acted out. But, there is no other way now. Huang-tu said with a difficult face. In the distance, Chakra had finally bottomed out with the continuous use of Oniki, who had been using dust escape. You're finished, old stuff, go to hell. N.A.N clenched his right fist, covered in armed color, and instantly rushed to the back of Oyemu, blasting directly at his head. Armed collarbone broken. When Lao Zi saw this, a red bubble floated in his body for an instant, and the next instant he went directly into the form of his coat and became a tail animal. Everything came too suddenly, and even Tsunade and Orochimaru failed to stop them, so they rushed in the direction where N.A.N and Oniki were. Just when N.A.N's armed colored iron fist was less than 20 centimeters from Onoji's head, suddenly I felt something squeeze my fist. Looking up, he was surrounded by the red chakra, and the 4 tails behind him moved without wind. Obviously it has entered the 4 tails of the half-tailed beast. He used his lava-style fist to block N.A.N's fatal blow to Oyemu, but from the low roar of roar dash from his throat, N.A.N was able to judge that he could not control the tail beastization. Fourth gate, open the wound door, N.A.N whispered. The skin on the body began to congestion. The violent power, let alone half-tail beastization, is completely tail beastization, so you should also avoid 3 points. Kaka kaka. Close to the last reason, the tail beast Hua Lao Zi wanted to stop N.A.N's fist from continuing to approach, but it can't resist it. In the mid-air stalemate for about half a second, the violent iron fist interrupted the fist covered with magma. The tail beast turned lava style. Roar dash. The severe pain of twisting the bones of the wrists made the tail beast Hua Lao Zi couldn't help but exhale in pain. With the natural self-healing ability of the tail beast, although it is not as buggy as Nine Tails restores its strength, it can also heal itself quickly. There was no obstacle in the iron fist, and it continued to blast towards Onoji. However, the obstacle of turning the tail beast into Lao Zi had already affected the original attack route of Iron Fist, and although it only took about a second, it was enough to make Oniki, a cage level, come back to dodge. Oyemu, who gritted his teeth desperately, faced the Iron Fist rushing from behind. The threat level was not inferior to Tailed Beast Bomb, and he wanted to fly and escape quickly. Puffing click, click, click. However, it is N.A.N that is faster. Although due to Lao Zi's obstacle, N.A.N didn't directly shoot Ohaimu with a headshot, but his fist hit Ohaimu's midfielder severely. If there are ninjas of the Hyaga clan watching with Byakugan now, it can be seen that in Onoki's short body, a whole piece of bones in the back waist can be seen, all of which are shattered under this move. While Oyeki cried out in pain, he was also beaten out. Dad, Lois looked shocked. The plump body jumped up, and it would be like a baseball home run caught by Onogi who was hitting the sky. Falling down from the class, the other rock shinobi ninjas hurriedly protected the yellow earth and the Onoji in his arms. Huang Tu immediately checked Onoki's injuries. At this time, third Tsuchikage had passed out in a coma, and Huang Tu inspected it a little, and the cold sweat covered his entire face. Back, lower back, no, most of the bones were beaten to pieces in half a step. When Huang Tu was surprised, Orochimaru suddenly said in a cold voice, "When will I allow you to take him away?" Suddenly, Orochimaru's most famous and most disgusting trick appeared. His body crawled on the ground, stretched out suddenly, turned and twisted like a snake, before the crowd's feet shuttled back and forth. Go down through the rock shinobi ninja guarding around the Lois. Even Huang Tu didn't react, and Onoki, who was in his arms, was caught by Orochimaru in the form of a snake. Damn it! Huang Tu, who had recovered in an instant, quickly stretched out his hand to take his father back. Tian Gang Boxing. Tsunade, who had been treating from behind, suddenly rushed down from above. Although it is no longer as good as Wuan, it can also completely let ninjas below cage level fall with the frightening fist. Boom dash. The erupting fist hit the ground hard, as if igniting the explosive buried in the ground at one go, causing the main piece of land to burst open. Although it cannot cause much damage to ninjas above the Jonin level, Tsunade's purpose is only to cover Orochimaru, which is enough. Orochimaru in the form of a snake suddenly retracted and returned to its adult form, and grabbed the dying Onoki in his hand. Killing the other side's shadow is equivalent to ending this war, N.A.N said rightly. Orochimaru sneered and lifted Onoji in his hands. The scene is almost like a python catching a rabbit. Achieved the achievement making the third Tsuchikage, template character, Monkey D. Garp, completion, 58.03%. The growth rate was not as good as the time when third Raikage was killed. It seems that it was because it did not say that it was completely killed. And Onoki's strength is indeed inferior to third Raikage. Roar! The prompt of the system just rang in my ears. Suddenly, a monstrous roar resounded through the clouds. Wuan turned his head and looked, and found that Lao Zi, who was originally a half-tailed beast, had now been completely tailed. The four tails, which was as big as a hill, came out, roaring and attacking all the surrounding objects indiscriminately. Obviously, Lao Zi and four tails are fighting for control of the body. Oops. Old Master Zi has lost his mind. Tail beastization is still too dangerous for him. One of Rock Shinobi's Jonin shouted in fear. The purpose has been achieved, retreat. As the deputy commander-in-chief of the front line, Tsunade gave the order decisively. The enemy's shadow has been caught by his own side, and a full-body tail beast madly attacks the surroundings indiscriminately. You don't have to think about it or there is no need to stay here now. All that needs to be done is to evacuate and wait for Rock Shinobi to surrender. Unless they disregard the life and death of Onoki. As far as Wuan is concerned, even if the fourth gate is opened, there is almost no physical damage to him. In the face of other Rock Shinobi's eagerness to regain third Tsuchikage from his own hands, Orochimaru reached out and threw Onoki to Wuan's side like a basketball pass. Wuan also reached out directly to catch it. This scene frightened Huang Tu and others once again. Oh, Yemu's current situation can't stand such a toss. Roar dash. For Tails is madly fighting for the control of the body in the spiritual world. Two huge fists covered with hot magma continue to smash down. Each punch can take the lives of at least 10 Jonin. The screams came and went one after another. Everyone knew, and Rock Shinobi knew that they couldn't stay any longer. Kanaha. We Rock Shinobi are willing to negotiate, but please treat my village Tsuchikage immediately. Seeing that Oyemu had been grabbed by Wuan, Huang Tu also knew that he couldn't take back people now. But the more important thing is to treat his father, and the key figure is Tsunade Ji. Wuan was quite surprised. Although it was not a stroke in the head, Oyemu didn't die after taking his own punch. The old bones are pretty hard. But thinking about it again, this old guy picked up the dirty soil. Madara's second meteorite cannon still has combat effectiveness. Maybe this is also some kind of talent. Big. Lao Zi, who is vying for control of the body with the tail beast in his body, is already raging on the battlefield in the form of a complete tail beast. The Konoha and Rock Shinobi ninjas who died at the foot of the war did not have the slightest scruples when he stepped on the strength of the ninja. Now Rock Shinobi, who even has his own movie captured alive by the other party, doesn't care about Lao Zi. I can only announce the retreat in embarrassment and hope that Tsunade, the strongest medical ninjutsu in the world, will treat Onoji before leaving. And Orochimaru also knew that in this battlefield of the tail beast riots, he could not stay any longer, and immediately announced his retreat. Suddenly, only the violent four tails were left on the big battlefield, roaring like a mad cow disease. Even beat his body from time to time. That night on the same day, when Namikaze Minato just felt 49-0 on the southern battlefield, he heard that his disciple Lin Nohara had been abducted by Kirigakure. The other disciple Kakashi ignored the order and forcibly caught up. He has not yet returned. Namikaze Minato was shocked when he heard the words, and rushed in the direction where Kakashi and Rin Nohara had left. At that time, it was already night, and the sky was still raining heavily, which fully demonstrated the atmosphere of the unknown. Namikaze Minato's heart became more and more anxious, regardless of how much chakra he had left, and kept using Flying Thunder God to drive on. However, Uchiha Madara, an old monster who has been hiding in the dark for decades, controls everything. Namikaze Minato is still too tender. When he rushed to the south coast, only found in a sea of corpses piled up by mist shinobi assassination troops, Kakashi returned to the beach on the side, and Lin was lying quietly on a rock, as if she was gently put on it. It's just that she can't wake up anymore. I'm late again. Namikaze Minato knelt on the ground feebly, a strong sense of remorse welled up in his heart, tears could not help but pouring down from his eyes. After half a minute, Namikaze Minato wiped tears with his sleeve. Kakashi, who fainted, and Lin, who couldn't wake up, gently picked up, and returned to the Konoha barracks, but he didn't notice at all. Less than a minute after him, he stuck a head from the ground and quietly watched the direction he was leaving. On the other side, the battlefield of the land. Medical ninjas headed by Tsunade walked out of the tent that served as the operating room. Seeing this, Wuen, sitting outside the door, raised his eyes and said, "How about that old guy?" Tsunade took off the mask on his face and said, "You kid is really cruel, and the waist will be the main thing in the future. More than 70% of the bones on the back are said to be comminuted fractures. It is better to say that it is completely turned into fragments." After a pause, Tsunade shook his head and continued, "Anyway,